Good evening and welcome to the Monday, March 23rd meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder. I see her. I see her name.
Emma, can you hear us?
But she is muted.
You're muted, Emma.
Oh, okay. Can they hear us?
Yeah.
First time, should be fine.
Okay. Emma, can you hear us? Kelsey, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah. Anybody?
Commissioner Kelsey Letso or Commissioner Emma Fullweiler, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, very good.
All right, Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow. All right. And Commissioner Emma Fullwilder. I guess, just assume that she's...
Emma, you're muted.
Yeah, wait for a moment and check it again after these items.
Right, come back, okay. All right. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda, and with this agenda for today, we are going to be taking, or there's been a request to move items 5, 6, 7, and 8 to the end. So I would entertain a motion.
To accept our minute agenda. Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on to approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business. And item number 1, consideration with possible action on the Downtown Business Improvement District's year-end financial reporting for 2025.
Yes, I can give a brief introduction. I don't have the pleasure of interacting too much with the Plan Commission, so let me reintroduce myself. But my name is Rebecca Finko, and I'm the Economic Development Specialist here with the city, Community and Economic Development.
And Rebecca, can I just stop you for a
Yes.
second, because I didn't get a chance to introduce Kiki Sanchez,
Oh, yes.
who is our planning manager replacement for David Book. So just started last week, brand new, but
Well,
Thank you.
all kinds of new people, right? That's what she's like.
Thank you. So in my role, I serve as the liaison to our board bids, and I also serve on their nonprofit boards as well. So the reason we're here today, as I'm sure most of you recall, is that every year the bid directors do come before the Plan Commission to present on their previous year's year-end financials. So that's why we're here today. We'll start with Jeff Marcus. He is the executive director of both the downtown bid and the Old Main Street bid. So I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Good evening, Plan Commissioners. Good to be with you. Late last year, you approved our 2026 bid plan. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to the success and the vibrancy of our downtown. I know that you are all fully aware of the main areas that we are involved in, is coordinating about 50-plus special events, downtown beautification initiatives, downtown marketing, and also business development, business recruitment. So it would be very easy for me to even stand here both representing downtown Green Bay and Old Main Street. I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you, but a number of years ago, both of those organizations were merged into one board while we remain separate bid entities. I'm here to let you know that the financial report that was included in your packet, we did utilize the bid funds as intended. I think it's important to note that what you're looking at on the bid funding and the utilization of these proceeds, it represents about 1/3 of our annual budget to lead a team that carries out those initiatives. So there is funding that comes from event coordination, sponsorship, philanthropy. So essentially, the report you're looking at is we received bid money in the amount of $265,000 roughly from the property owners in the downtown district, and about $67,000 in the Old Main Street district. As you can tell, the Old Main doesn't have quite the corporate density that the downtown district has. But we did utilize the funding as intended. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions related to what we're reporting to you. However, I know that it's also an opportunity to give you a little bit of a recap of latest and greatest. Look, our team is so focused on what's happening now and what's happening in the year 26. I know tonight's report is, what did we accomplish in 25? And if I just take you back about a year, a lot of our efforts were focused on the NFL draft being in downtown. So we had an opportunity to sit back and watch the NFL draft 4 miles away from here, or make things happen. And in collaboration with other entities, we made things happen. And I'd like to say that it worked. The results of the Booyah Battle and the Kringle Combine, the Saturday Farmers Market Draft Edition, it was meant to drive traffic to the downtown, but it was also meant to build confidence in the downtown area. And I think that it's almost like 2025 was a year of, like, we were tossing out fertilizer. And I think that 2025 was probably the best year of recovery since COVID. And I'm pleased to say that while I'm not going to give you a full report of what's happening in the downtown currently, what we did last year is paying off. Sneak preview, there are roughly 475 residential units under construction right now in the downtown area, in the downtown district. It's safe to say that confidence is coming back. I'm getting more calls on small businesses that are ready to think on downtown, and maybe they weren't 4 years ago. So that's all good. A lot of our efforts last year were preparedness. The planters, we did a spring planting. We didn't want vacant planters in April. We've never planted bulbs before, but we wanted downtown to look good. Collectively, both downtown and Old Main Street, we took on more public art projects than ever before. So we did the Wisconsin Photo Op mural. That was at all events. Even we hauled it across the river and utilized it at a lot of the Touchdown Downtown events in the Broadway district. We did the brilliant bulbs beautifying the Fox River for the winter months. In the Main Street district, a couple of historic murals. We want to tap into the history of Main Street more going forward. And a big, beautiful planter on the Main Street corner, that was a community art project. So beautification initiatives was one area that we put more resources into. We put more resources, we called on our marketing teams in collaboration with the city departments and on Broadway. As part of that Touchdown Downtown partnership, we did receive some grant funding, put that to good use, but whenever we do that, we rely on our people. And so we were able to do more regarding marketing for the NFL draft. At the same time, we carried out successfully all the events that we normally do, cafe crawls, the Summer in the Park concerts, those types of activities. I'm very pleased that, we have a dynamic team that is excited about, bringing people to the downtown and the impact that it has on business development. So I mainly wanted to just hit up on, a number of things such as that. I'd be more than happy to field any of your questions. But I am pleased to say that what we did in 25 is paying dividends currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, go ahead. Do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a couple.
Hit him hard, DJ.
Yeah, no. Being a downtown resident, there are a number of vacant I guess, storefronts on Broadway and in downtown. I mean, can you share just a little bit about what you're doing for those?
Certainly. Thankfully, we're seeing some progress. Lease has been signed on the formal Capital Credit Union building located right next to Loco Wisco. We will see a new tenant moving into that space on June 1st. A high-end furniture showroom is taking that space. We believe that a lease may be getting close or signed in the storefronts of the Shower and Schumacher buildings. Hopefully, this is the year that we stop calling that the Shower and Schumacher buildings. That would be one of our hopes and dreams.
Is that where the boxes are now, in the
Yeah.
window?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so, those are just a couple of where we're beginning to see some activity. While I'm not going to get in a great amount of detail, one of the things on our wish list and that we're actively working on is the hopeful eventual sale of the Watermark property. That also includes the former Children's Museum space, that's the 301 building, and there is blossoming interest in that space. So those are a few of the notable storefronts. In the Main Street District, I'm very pleased that a number of those properties, like Old Town Crossing and Main Street Commons, are at or near full capacity. We are seeing some progress on some storefronts. In addition, I think what we're going to see this year is the redevelopment of the Chase Bank property is going to potentially bring some more high-end retail to that property. So there is a redevelopment plan in that area that I think is going to bring a significant amount of confidence to that area. Same developer purchased the fire department building, and there are, that is another prime development. It's being marketed as Station 501 because it's 501 Washington Street. No one has taken it yet, but we think with growing confidence, someone will step up in the months ahead and pick up a gem like that.
Thank you. I do need a motion.
To accept the report?
Right.
Okay. Move to accept the report as stated.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Vitsky. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then I would, for the record, like to, that Commissioner Fullwilder is now present and waving. All right. Okay, moving on then to item number 2, consideration with possible action on the Old Main Street Business Improvement District's year-end financial reporting for 2025.
Embedded in the remarks that I just shared with you was the Old Main Street update. Their financial statement is included. As you can tell, that is a business improvement district of a much smaller scale, less than 1/3 the size of the downtown district. The initiatives that Team Downtown Green Bay carries out are the same for both districts. We made some good things happen there. We're pleased with the results. A lot of those had to do with beautification. We had some events taking place in the Whitney Park, and we had an Experience Old Main event. So that district also participates in the cafe crawl, but we had theater in the park. So we do some programming. Event activation is not quite as robust in the downtown district, but we are about to tap into some more historic themed events. And one is called Experience Old Main Then and Now, and we are going to tap into the history of the brewing in the Main Street district. So you're going to hear about that, an event coming up in April.
All right, thanks, Jim. Yeah, do we have any discussion or any questions?
I
for
do
Jim?
have one more question. Can you, two things, expand on the 1001 building and then the building across from Pumps? Thank you. That is like Reeves, and is that going to be just a storage?
So the owner of the building across from Pomps is known as the Mendicow Building, and they own other businesses in the vicinity, and at this point, they don't have any real need to develop that property because they need the parking for their business. So that building is being used by Old Main Street and downtown for storage, but there's not an intended use at the current moment. Regarding your question about the 1001 Club, the owner of that operation made a decision to close the building. It is for sale. He may have an opportunity to sell it to another restaurant here, but the building is currently on the market.
Thank you.
Make a motion to accept the report.
We have a motion by Commissioner Daniels and a second by Commissioner Vinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that will move forward then to City Council, March, April, what month are we in now? April 1st? Whoa.
21st.
21st. That's a long time from now, all right. All right, April 21st. Moving on then to item number 3, consideration with possible action on the Broadway Business Improvement District's year-end financial reporting for 2025.
Would you like me to introduce you?
Oh,
Okay,
no,
so-
you get.
He needs no introduction.
So we have Brian Johnson here, he's the Executive Director for the Broadway Business Improvement District. Over to you.
Hello, Commissioners. So much like Jeff, we're very grateful to have a partner in downtown Green Bay. We are separate business improvement districts, separate 501c3 nonprofit organizations, but we obviously work very closely together to really promote and elevate the overall downtown experience. And so what you have in front of you is 2 things. One, I just handed out our annual report, and this is related to On Broadway, the 501c3 operating entity. But contained in the packet was the Broadway Business Improvement District budget. And so normally this is the financial statement that we have provided to you, where we show not only what was budgeted within the bid operating plan, but then what we actually spent on each of those areas, because I think it's important to show how much we are working to leverage the dollars that the bid is allocating. There's sort of one deviation within this, and that is when you see the admin allocation and the annual audit, those match the actual numbers within the bid budget, but frankly, they're just hard numbers to calculate because all of the overhead operating expenses related to On Broadway, in theory, could be put into there, so we don't do that. But the other ones are more direct expenses like lighting and annual maintenance, public art, that type of thing. There were really only 2 buckets that we did not spend last year, and that was the bike racks and the retail incubator. And so that's what you see in the bottom, the 2025 rollover funds. So it's expected that those will be invested this year, and hopefully in a way that's going to leverage some additional funding that we've secured to be able to invest in certain things this year. So a couple of highlights from a programmatic perspective. Our bid operating budget historically is made up about 5 to 6% of On Broadway's operating budget. And I point out operating budget because obviously we have a couple of capital campaigns going on right now. So if we extract out sort of those pledges, that's the percentage of our budget, which is very different than Jeff's. And he alluded to the difference in his core business district in Old Main, because, and the same applies to us. The downtown core district has larger buildings, higher density, that generate a higher bid assessment, whereas we have a lot of smaller buildings, and so as a result, we have to make up for our funding in other ways, and predominantly that's done through events, which includes sponsorships and grant writing. So that is how the On Broadway budget is really generated each year. A couple of things that I want to point out. Wisconsin Main Street Awards happened just this past week, and I want to give a shout out to our partner again with Jeff. So we are the Main Street community, Jeff is a connected community, but we were presented with the best marketing or promotion effort in the state of Wisconsin with the Touchdown Downtown campaign. And so while we received the award because we're the Main Street community, it really, in my eyes, is a joint award because of the work that our teams have done together to really kind of elevate the profile of downtown. Additionally, Barb Lemieux, who many of you maybe know, was adopted into the Wisconsin Hall of Fame. So we're really proud of that because that is a very prestigious award. And then On Broadway was also recognized for 30 years. And we're coming on the tail end of that 30-year anniversary in terms of the work that we've been doing. As far as the programmatic stuff goes, we have a lot of details in our annual report that I handed out in terms of the number of things that we're doing, but there are a few that I do want to call out specifically. And one is the Light Park, and I'm sure many of you have seen some of the news around that, and that is something that we've been co-working on with the Parks Department. The Parks Department has funded really their portion of the project, which is the pavilion. On Broadway is conducting a capital campaign to fund the other half of the project, which will be the stage, the waterfront stairs, and some other site improvements. Never do two capital campaigns at the same time, but this was one of those where we agreed to do it because otherwise the opportunity would have gone by. And so if we had not stepped up to really commit to do that, I think it would have been hard for the city to make the commitment that it did. But that's why the project has been split into phases. We have raised about right around $1.5 million, and our goal is probably going to be around $5 million by the time we're done. So it'll match what the city's put into the project. And really that final phase will be done once we've raised our funding objectives. But exciting to see the crane out there, if you haven't seen that, so that'll be happening here very soon. We did have one new mural installed in the district, the Milwaukee Brewers. We partnered with them to install a mural on the Herkman Mechanical Building, so if you haven't seen that, highly encourage. It's really cool. Our volunteer program continues to be kind of a shining light within the state. It was recognized a few years ago as the best volunteer program in the state, but it generates about 5,000 volunteer hours per year that really kind of help invest in a lot of the things that we're doing in the district, whether it's the events and the activation. Sometimes it's our committees and our boards and the way they get involved in our programming. It can be picking weeds and picking up trash. Trash is a big thing that we do every other week and get a lot of volunteers for. So I just like to point that out because it takes time and effort to coordinate that help, but they're really doing a phenomenal job with beautifying the district and making our city really presentable. Something new this year that we had worked with Wisconsin Main Street on was really tracking overall visitor count. And I don't know about you guys, but this number surprised me a little bit, which is when you look at the 2025 visitor traffic count to the Broadway district, 732,000 unique visitors, a total of 2.6 million trips. And so that's your visitor count. That's not folks that live there, right? That the data has, they can filter that out. So candidly, it just surprised us that it was that big as well. And that's the beauty of using geolocation services on your phone, the GPS services, where it picks that up, and with an average stay of 92 minutes, which is well above average. So we're really proud to see that folks are spending time in the district, whether it's for an event or picking up a cup of coffee, having dinner, whatever it might be. Just like Jeff, we have a lot of really great development on the horizon. We've had, the Fort at the Rail Yard opened its doors and added a couple hundred residential units to the district. As you guys know, the fire department and those correlating departments are looking to expand in the district. There's a few other agreements and things that I would call like pre-planning phase that are being evaluated, and I think that's really important because it shows the health of a district. When you have stuff that is in every stage of development, that's critically important, and really proud to say that our district has that. I know Jeff's does too, and so to Jeff's point, I think it reinforces the health of our downtown and the demand that continues to exist. Not a day goes by, of course, where I'm not questioned about the public market. We've done some recent updates to our development agreement with the city, which included a presentation to the redevelopment authority as well as our State of the Broadway district. And so we are very confident in the path that we are on right now with new market tax credits. We're awaiting a final decision here from the state on that grant program, which is pretty important piece of this puzzle for us, and then still a little bit more on the private side to raise. But this is a big project. It's a heavy lift, and if you look at every other major capital campaign project in our community, they're all behind. It's just because you're seeing escalating costs across the board for everybody. We've experienced that. And even the scope of the project changes when you start, sometimes you go into these things with a certain vision, and as you start designing and scoping things out, you react to opportunities, and that's what we've done. And so we think it's going to be a really great project when it's complete. And we're very optimistic that we'll be able to kind of pull that capital stack together this year and get that thing under construction to open closer to the end of next year. Obviously, the draft was a big thing that happened last year, and again, very proud of the partnership with Jeff and his team, but also the Draft City Music Fest, which had 2 separate concerts on the shoulder dates with national acts. Had a lot of partners that came together, including the city, on that. And so if you didn't make it out, it was pretty cool to be able to see that our city could come alive in April with national acts, and that our community would show up for it. So grateful to have had the opportunity. And then kind of want to start to, obviously the events that we do, we're in the same boat as Jeff, 50 to 60 events a year. Obviously, you're familiar with some of our more notable ones, like the Farmers Market on Broadway, Fire Over the Fox. Something that, we really haven't talked about a ton, but the 11 Amp Music Series, that is a 3-year grant, and that was renewed again for this year for another 3 years. So we're really excited to be able to continue that. I credit the 11 Amp Green Bay Music Series as for what's happening at Light Park. The whole foundation of that concert series is to program underutilized spaces in your community. And while Light Park is certainly a beautiful site, it would be hard to argue that it was not underutilized. And the whole point of bringing that concert series here was to not only celebrate the arts and original music, but to highlight what that park could be. And I would call that mission accomplished when you see what's happening there right now. So, we continue to invest in the arts, whether it's through events like that, the installation of murals. In fact, one of the things I reported at our State of the Broadway District event is that in the last 10 years, we have spent direct payments to artists in our community over $1 million for things that they've done in our district, whether it's live music or a mural or a sculpture, graphic design. So we continue to heavily support the arts because we recognize that is what makes really great communities. The final thing that I wanted to point out is that we were the recipient of a grant that we talked about in a press conference and in a few different outlets. We were one of 6 programs in the country that received it. It was funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, granted through the National Main Street Center. It is a pilot program called Unlocking Capital. And so we are piloting this. They want to make it a permanent program, but the underlying premise is, how do you unlock capital for development projects? A lot of times in communities, it's outside money that comes in. Those outside developers are looking for a certain cap rate or a rate of return on their investment, and they'll do whatever it is, right, to get that return. It doesn't always have the community's best interests in mind. I'm not saying that they're sinister intentions. They're different motivations than if you use local capital to really kind of prioritize community needs. And so one of the biggest impediments to development, though, are pre-development costs. It is very costly for a developer to fund things like studies, feasibility studies, or even the creation of plans without knowing if that project will happen. And so that is the focus of this program, is how do you fund those pre-development costs, and can that be leveraged then to unlock local capital to make those projects happen? So we have a few projects within our district that we are prioritizing this process, one of which is the public market, but there are several other private parcels. So I'm just going to preempt your question there, DJ. But we're really, what's really cool is we have taken a long view on this program, where we're kind of looking at this through a 20-year lens, and we're creating a massing study of the district, so that, similar to the Shipyard Corridor plan years ago, but if you were to identify sort of the top 10, 15, 20 parcels in our district, what would it look like if it had development? Because infill development is a priority of ours. How you fund that pre-development to actually get those buildings going is another story. And part of this is to create a more walkable, desirable district by getting rid of these vacant lots, putting them with appropriately scaled development. The problem is, a $3 to $5 million development on these parcels oftentimes takes the same skill set as a $70 million development, and the developer almost always goes with 70, right? So it's how do you maybe leverage what we call impact investing at the local level to get those smaller projects off the ground. And so we're really working out a framework and a plan to do that here locally. And I'm really excited about it because the national folks have told us that of the 6 pilot programs, we are the model that they most closely want to resemble when they do this in the future. And they said this in the presence of 4 of my board members, so they'll validate this, because I'm super proud of this, but they said we are easily operating within the top 1% of programs in the country in terms of the work that we are doing. So I think Green Bay's got a lot to be proud of in terms of our business improvement districts and what we're doing here. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Okay. So, no questions, but 2 comments. I would say I've never sold as much mulled wine.
Mulled
wine?
See, I don't even know what it is. Then I did the Mistletoe Lodge for the Kris Kringle Market.
Yep.
So I volunteered. It was delicious, by the way. But no, it was really good. So I really enjoyed that, even though it was cold. Very cold. But I was
Outside, but not the wine.
It was really good. Another success story, I don't see it in here, and probably because this report was done, but success for Broadway, probably not a success for military, but the Tyler Knott, their second location, I know is coming downtown. I think that's the base building, or whatever that building
Yep.
is. So that's another success story of just the traffic in the business that's coming downtown, so.
Yeah, we've had a number, right? Voyager's Bakehouse expanded.
Oh, that's right.
Bonafide just opened and built a sort of a processing center off the back of that building. But, much like Jeff, I think most of our spaces are occupied. You may notice some that are not, and it's because those are the properties that we're prioritizing that Unlocking Capital program because they need an adaptive reuse investment to really occupy them. Off the top of my head, I can only think of 1 space that is active and ready for occupancy right now, and we've got a couple of really good leads on that. I think our priority, oftentimes districts, you want to see your spaces occupied, but once you achieve that, then the objective needs to be the right use in the right space. And part of that is making sure that in your retail storefronts, you actually get retail operators. And property investors don't always have the same motivations. And so trying to get them to buy into that vision that when you get the right uses in the right spaces, that everything works better for everybody, is really kind of what we're focused on now.
Yeah, we were just having a quick discussion about Broadway. So the vintage shop that used to be next to Prohibition and the shop at the very end.
Yep.
I don't know what they're doing.
So the one that I'm referring to that's open was Broadway Exchange and Vintage Lair. Kakala Vintage that was next to Prohibition, that is under lease. So there is a place that's going to be opening there
Is it a clothing shop?
soon. It is not, yeah. Again, we obviously welcome all businesses to the district. And this is a big part of what that Unlocking Capital program is doing for us, is we are building out, you've got the development side of things, and then you've got sort of the business side of things, because you can do all the development in the world, but if you don't have the businesses to occupy the spaces that can afford the rent rate, it's all for naught. And so you have to balance both sides of that equation. And so that is one of the things that we're doing, is also building out a better process for identifying what is the appropriate business mix that you want in your district and the uses you want in each space. And so it's a national tool called Booms Tracker, but it allows you to inventory all of your properties and the type of space that they have, so that way you can do a better job of mixing and matching.
Well, hopefully it's not another bar.
It is not. It's actually not even a retail-oriented business.
Speaking of
so.
Stage 1 and Lyric Room, what, is anything going on with that?
That's one that, in theory, I guess that building could be leased out, but that's one I'm putting in that adaptive reuse bucket because,
It's just got such a cool little
Yeah.
garden in the back area.
That's beautiful,
Right,
yeah.
it's really neat.
yeah, and the second and third floor really, they're gutted, but it's a beautiful building. You just have to find the right buyer that is willing to invest in it.
Right, because how do you get up to the second floor? It's through the middle of the bar, isn't it? Like right by the bathroom?
No, it has a separate entrance, but you'll find that above storefront redevelopments are incredibly costly. We're
Right.
working with a property owner right now on one, and it's, I mean, the construction costs are coming in, I think it was $430,000 per unit. I mean, you just can't charge enough rent to make that make sense. And so that's why the state recently just actually passed some legislation. They've had a fund where one of its verticals is looking at above storefront types of housing, and it's a favorable loan fund. And but the problem is you couldn't use it in conjunction with historic tax credits or TIF, and they just eliminated that in this last legislation. So we're very optimistic that we might find a way to deploy that now.
Any other questions?
Awesome. Well, thanks for everything you guys do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You really can. If I was not the chair, I was doing that on the end
Okay,
all the
I move to
time.
accept the Broadway District Business Report.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to the City Council for April 21st. Moving on to item number 4, consideration with possible action on the Military Avenue Business Improvement District's year-end financial reporting for 2025.
And unfortunately, Leah Weicker wasn't able to join us today. She's the Executive Director for the Military Avenue Business Improvement District, so I will be presenting in her place. So bear with me, I do have to refer to my notes. But overall, 2025 was a very strong year financially. So in addition to the roughly $104,000 in bid assessments, the total revenues came in at approximately $331,000. That exceeded projections by about $44,000. And this was driven primarily by the draft events that my colleagues have mentioned earlier, and interest income as well. Expenses were also higher in that category for the same reason with the draft, and also with strategic economic development initiatives, which I'll touch upon shortly. But overall, the bid ended the year positively with a balance of $111,000. So it's a clear indicator that the bid remains financially stable and active, and a driver for Military Avenue. So just to touch on a couple of the key budget variances, one of course being the NFL drafts. Like the others, Military Avenue also put a lot of effort into their draft event. It was called Get the Party Started. They of course were uniquely positioned at the main campus entrance for the draft. So they had food trucks come down, they had beer sales, t-shirts, food trucks, yeah, I think I mentioned that, but all those activities together generated a higher level of revenue than what they were anticipating. On the flip side, those expenses were higher as well, but they were offset by sponsorships and grants, and that included a $20,000 ARPA tourism grant through the City of Green Bay. So I think one of the key takeaways for their event is that even though they're a very small but mighty staff, they can really scale up to participate in those regional opportunities and kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunities as the draft was. So moving on to economic development, the Military Avenue Business Association, so the nonprofit side of the bid, is still continuing their project working toward what's called the Market on Military indoor year-round farmers market facility. It has recently officially been renamed to Harvest Hall, and that's to represent that dual purpose of being both a farmers market and a community gathering space. Looking to continue on with their capital campaign fundraising for that project. They're hoping to raise $5 million. They have just over $3.7 million still needed for that project. So fundraising to date includes private contributions of $710,000, committed of $640,000. That includes the tax increment financing assistance of $550,000, in kind of $40,000, and an anonymous pledge of $100,000. The city also donated the 3 acres of Murphy Park where this facility will be located, And City Parks has also agreed to manage 30 years of building maintenance. So together, those two contributions from the city equal about 1.5 million and have really reduced the need for Military Avenue to look at purchasing a different piece of land that would have probably cost $1.3 million roughly, and then also eliminated the need for them to create an endowment for ongoing maintenance and expenses. So just wanted to point out those capital campaign funds are tracked through the Military Avenue Business Association, so they aren't shown here on these financial reports. However, there were some higher than anticipated expenses related to that particular project. So those came in higher than anticipated, projected at 1,000. 2025 actual was closer to 17, so you'll see that reflected there as well. In terms of staffing came in slightly under budget by about 5,000. In 2025, the bid operated with Leah as the one full-time person, and she had 2 part-time staff as well. That's now been transitioning, so we're looking ahead for 2026 to be the full-time position and then one part-time staff. Some funds for program reallocation have been shifted, originally designed in physical improvements, more anticipated to be spent that were otherwise moved over again to cover those draft expenses and the expenses associated with the capital campaign. But of those that were incurred, included installation of street pole banners throughout the district, planter boxes, weed control, Wi-Fi and operations of the monument sign, public amenities, and district branding, and a lot of that, of course, was in preparation for the NFL draft as well. They also increased their marketing expenses and are focusing more effort of that part-time position into marketing and social media and providing some additional resources to assist their businesses with engaging through social media and other outlets. So these initiatives are translating into results. I just wanted to share a few notable numbers from their events. Summer Market ended up seeing 478 weekly customers and I believe 66%, if I'm remembering right. It shows from our placer reports that they do patronize other businesses as well. So that influence even beyond the market and out into the community. With the winter market, they had some challenges this year locating a venue. Ended up on the second floor of BMO Bank. So they had to scale back the market somewhat, but still drew in 650 to 800 customers for each event. New this year, they introduced an event called Merry on Military. It was very successful. I understand that the temperatures were frigid, but people still came out, got their pictures taken, visited with some reindeer, and had a good time. So looking ahead, the bid is continuing to focus on the successful market and other events, continuing to support their businesses through retention and recruitment, and also advancing the Harvest Hall project. So I guess with that, I'll take questions. I'll answer them if I'm able, and if not, I can certainly reach out to Leah and get back with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
No, I don't know.
Well, I'm over here all the time. I use the car wash all the time. Oh, yes, that's right next to you. Okay, sorry. Do we have any further questions? Otherwise, I would certainly entertain a motion.
Starting a trend.
I can't do Okay, I'll make a motion to improve the Military Avenue Business Improvement Report.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Rubinski. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we are moving through to number 9, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor or oppose or only providing information in this matter. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 9. Public hearing on a request for a planned unit development for library, other semi-public uses, and surface parking for property located at 515 South Pine Street and 201 North Monroe Avenue, submitted by Dan Teeters of Brown County, applicant and property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So what you are looking at is 2 parcels located at Pine and Monroe. It would be the existing library building, and then across the street at the old Bank Mutual building, which a few years ago you happen to have seen that CUP request. At that time that fell through. So looking at the comp plan, the area is designated for downtown use on both blocks. And the existing zoning for the 2 parcels would be PI, public institutional, for the library, and downtown 1 for the former bank building located over on Monroe. So just to give a bit more, just what are we looking at here? 2 individual parcels. As you're seeing here on the north, this is just seeing the same intersection over at Monroe and Pine. You're seeing the corner of the library building off to your northwest, and then the former bank building, which has some parking facilities, off to the southwest. So why is it we're here? Why have a PUD at all for this film? So we have 2 individual parcels that are both owned by Brown County. The county is looking to expand upon the existing library building and have some use and expansion over on the property to the south. So as far as some changes to the library building itself, the Gronic Cafe, in association with the ADRC, is looking to hold the corner and bring, if you look back over here, you'll notice in the corner of Monroe and Pine, you have the grass areas plus the driveway entrance. I'll just go ahead and do this now. Looking to add in the Gronic Cafe, which happens to be located south of City Hall, over to this site, along with the ADRC and Wisconsin Job Center. So adding some other semi-public uses to the overall library footprint in their expansion. So additionally then, the library is looking to add in some additional parking to the north of the library. If you enter right now, you can enter off of, say, Pine Street, and then turn around through a drive-through, and then loop back around to some parking where there's approximately 14, 15 stalls. They're looking to expand that further on to the west and end up with a dry stall back over on Madison. The reason why this gets brought up, PD will bring up in a bit, there's some issues that don't quite jive with existing code and parking lot uses. So as noted, removing the driveway entrance over on Pine and adding on the addition to Madison and the other semi-public users to the overall site with the ADRC, the Grounded Cafe, and the Wisconsin Job Center. So the updates to the parcel to the south, the old bank parcel. I'm going to bring this up right here with some images. Looking to take that parcel, raise the existing building, and then add in approximately 54 stalls or so on the southern part of that property. Partially on that property, south of the library, rather than northern 190 feet of that property. The overall parcel itself goes approximately 330 linear feet from Pine back down to Cherry to the south. And so what you're seeing is an approximate midpoint right here of the overall facility, the overall parcel. And so the county is seeking to utilize that space as a new parking lot for those services back up to the Bank Mutual, up to the library back to the north. And then what you're seeing over here on this eastern, on the right part of the image here, would be the additions to the library, being the grounded cafe addition, a loading zone back over in this area, and the additional stalls that are being proposed back over this way. I want to note, if you have your emails open, the PUD that was presented in the packets did not include these exhibits specifically. The exhibits were in the overall report, but they weren't added onto the text of this PUD. And there's also one other part that was not, was misplaced, but was not in the report. I will touch on that here momentarily, but we'll have to note that when it comes to actual approvals of a PUD potentially happening. So what precipitates this? Why the changes from existing code? Why would we be here tonight? So the underlying zoning for the library itself is PI, public institutional. The additional uses like the Grounded Cafe restaurants, the Job Center, and the ADRC get a little bit murky as far as PI use. They're there, but the restaurant kind of gets a little bit onto the edge. So by having this PUD, we're establishing that the underlying zoning is downtown. All those uses work just fine within this context. And as we're viewing this lens, we're seeing both the library and the parcel to the south, the old bank parcel, being one overall development, rather than having the two individual parcels as individual separate zoning uses. So just want to note that additionally, when it comes to physical design developments, it's allowing for the continued drive-through access for books. Right now, that's that drive-through would be not permitted by code, but it's grandfathered. But because there's additions happening to the library itself, we're adding this as a PD to note that the drive-through could remain for the book drop-off because the library is still seeking to keep an option. And then finally, for this area on the northern block, if you will, it's allowing for handicap parking stalls rather than a landscape island to break up elongated parking at the north end of the library. I'm going to go back to the site plan. By adding in these extra stalls, the code calls for a landscape island every 15 stalls. So if you happen to have a row of parking that's 30 stalls or longer than 15 stalls, you have to have a landscape island in the plans. Now, when talking with Brown County, they're seeking to get more parking stalls for these additional users, especially users who happen to have different abilities. If we're talking senior folks and things of that sort, trying to get more parking directly to adjacent entrance or to nearby entrances. Staff felt it was supportive to, rather than enforcing a landscape island where the two ADA van accessible spaces would be, to promote the handicap stalls, be right there and eke out a bit more parking. So then additionally, for the area to the south, over in parcel 11-188, so there's no primary use for the property right now because the bank building is abandoned. This PUD would allow for the northern 190 feet of that property to allow for surface parking to occur on that property. In its own standalone use, if this is its own parcel, surface parking is not a permitted use. In conjunction with the library itself, this is where the PUD would address allowing for surface parking to serve the needs of the people who are utilizing the library and the additional facilities at the library. In addition, what the PUD notes is that the area to the south, obviously the building to be raised, and the remaining 140 feet south of the parking lot to be landscaped or seeded for future development for downtown uses. This overall parcel right here will still remain as a downtown 1 zoning, underlying zoning on this parcel, so that the long-term vision would be that this would not be primarily used as surface parking in perpetuity, but if there were options that could come forth in the future to have some mixed-use development that could both allow for, say, structured parking on the site, or maybe just a reduction of parking in some shape or form, but still have a mixed use of the property, that could exist. Additionally, on this, some PUD changes that are varying from existing code, Staff is, and this was not a part of the PD, which we'll just note, staff is looking to require the southernmost 25 feet of the parking area, the southernmost 190, to be utilized as an ingress-egress area for future development. Because it's recognized that this development will probably have to have an access point for vehicles for any sort of future development on the southern part of the property, and not to encourage two individual driveway entrances off of Monroe, rather having one mid-block entrance that could serve the needs of either one whole user or two individual users into the future. I want to note a few more things as far as what you had noted there with what the county had presented in their narrative. What you're seeing right here are some changes to, proposed changes to Pine Street. As a group, because this is in the public right of way, you're not looking at this as far as any sort of action. This would have to go to PMP for any sort of action with the city, but.
INS.
Sorry, INS, apologies, yes, INS, that's good, INS. Yep. For action into the future. But what the county is trying to achieve here is having more parking stalls next to the library facility to serve library, ADRC, Brownie Cafe, Wisconsin Job Center, as many stalls as possible. By having some changes in Pine Street to allow for diagonal parking, you are eking out more stalls. Additionally, when it comes to the comp plan that we all approved here last year when it comes to complete streets, the idea of having bump outs and creating narrower streets that are trying to encourage better pedestrian connectivity is evident here with the narrowing of Pine Street, which we've all, if you've happened to been down this way, with the construction changes that are happening adjacent over at the former US Bank building, we've seen the street have a narrower road diet, and I would say it has had some changes as far as driver patterns, as far as slowing things down there for folks who are down in that area. When you're seeing those changes on Pine Street, that's not for consideration with this group, but just want to note in the goal to add more parking to the northern part of the library, add more parking to the parcel to the south where the existing parking has occurred, trying to eke out a few more stalls, 20 stalls on the north side of Pine Street, 8 stalls parallel on the south side of Pine Street. Additionally, the design that's been put forth by the county as far as islands and entryways and the movement of the drive entrance do meet design code if this were taken in the context of it being accessory parking to a use. So this PUD is looking at this parking lot south library essentially as being accessory parking to the larger use of the expanded library and ADRC and Job Center back to the north. So just to note, just to verify, the missing exhibits were Exhibit A, which is just an overall map of the site, Exhibit B1, which would be the showcasing the southern portion of this overall PD proposal, Exhibit B2 being the library, the northern portion of the overall proposal, and then to format this correct for the sake of documents in the future, an image of the proposed addition to the building at the corner of Pine and Monroe for the Grounded Cafe.
All right. All right, now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item.
Good evening. My name is Dan Teeters, Brown County Planning Director. I just want to introduce myself, let you guys go ahead and ask questions once the item is open. But Brown County is happy to present this project in front of you guys tonight, and we are here to receive feedback.
Thank you so
Yep.
much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else?
That's why we stick around, right? I think this actually falls slightly outside my district. I think it zigzags out by a block. But either way, just kind of obviously appreciate what the county wants to do and appreciate the interest in wanting to continue to invest in this property, so thank you. Obviously, as you know, when we think about downtown, we try really hard not to make permanent parking lots. And so that would just be one thing that I would maybe encourage the Plan Commission to see if there's a resolution that can be found there that, obviously sunsetting zoning isn't exactly an option, but I'm wondering if, if air rights had potentially been considered for this particular parcel and, if it could be a way forward that could provide that as a temporary use, but also preserve some options for long-term redevelopment of that parcel, provided that we can replace those parking stalls, right, that the county is looking to create here. So to me, it seems like it might be some appropriate middle ground, perhaps, to get what we both really need out of something like this. The other thing, and appreciating, again, the landscaping, something that's oftentimes used in downtown or urban parking lots is, elevating that landscaping to something more like a wrought iron fence, because it kind of creates the illusion or the impression of a structure as opposed to just an open surface lot area. So just something to contemplate there. And then, when I was listening to John's comment about the ingress, and certainly appreciate that point about, having that ability to develop it as one or two, I would just maybe offer up that if you were looking at this through the lens of a true dense downtown development, would you even want an access point onto Monroe? Or would you prefer to have a design have that access on the back end? So I have no problem with kind of the ingress being proposed as it is right now, but just thinking long-term, right? It seems to me that you probably want to have more of a solid building face along Monroe. And, we think about the parking lot across the street that the city is currently working with a developer on. I think, gosh, what did we pay for that? $1.2 million. So the point being is that, land along Monroe that's been relatively newly constructed, should have a high degree of value. So hopefully the county would see that as well. If there's a way that we can solve sort of that immediate need that they have, I think it's important for us to be that good partner to find that path while collaboratively working together to figure out how we create higher value here long-term for our community. And that goes for city and county taxpayers. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one else came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 10. Consideration with possible action on a request for a planned unit development for library, other semi-public uses, and surface parking for property located at 515 South Pine Street and 201 North Monroe Avenue, submitted by Dan Teeters of Brown County, applicant and property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to touch on that one part that was not included with the PUD that was posted here online, and that's in subsection H regarding access, circulation, and parking. The way the draft is written is surface parking is permitted as a principal use in the northern 190 feet of parcel 11-118. The additional part that we felt needed to be there was that the southernmost 25 feet of the said 190 feet shall grant egress for a shared driveway easement access to any future development to the southern 140 feet of parcel 11-118. Noting that back on to this plan that was presented right here, this is the approximate midway point, which would be 165 feet of the overall block, adding in 25 feet for a fairly large size two-way drive would allow for both egress for both properties. For both sides of the property and potentially two properties in the future. to go off of what Alder Johnson had mentioned as far as development in the future and then a surface parking lot. We do note the underlying zoning remains as downtown one for this site. And when trying to both be respectful of the needs for the additional capacity at the library and trying to accommodate users who need to be closer to the building because of their different levels of accessibility. And still wanting to see these blocks become more intensely developed in the future. Part of why we had in the PUD was the southern 140 feet. That's one of the, if you, while reading the concepts from the county, there were discussions where the county was potentially looking to utilize the entire block as parking. And staff didn't feel that was appropriate to have the entire block be parking. And why we felt it was appropriate and necessary to have language in to allow for the southern 140 feet to be either seeded for grass or landscaped was to encourage the idea of this is a developable site in the future. And looking at the parking lot, well, obviously there's investments being placed into curbing and putting in some new asphalt to make what they've shown for a concept, or it wouldn't be a substantial cost to still encourage development, redevelopment to happen in the future on these sites if there was a developer who looked to see, hey, this could be a good mixed-use opportunity to where you can still get some parking for the county and still do a mixed-use or residential development into the future. I'll note for when it comes to landscaping of a parking lot along the edge of a road, in that 5-foot terrace, which is reduced for downtown, there still has to be a landscape plan that addresses having a 3-foot tall minimum combination of berming, planting, fencing to reduce headlight exposure onto the street. It's not specific. It gives users options to meet that if this group chose to take the direction. Like to hear if there's any other thoughts as to there being a certain material that would be appropriate for that area. But with all that said, staff does recommend approval of the request with the additions of exhibits A, B1, B2, and C, and the language that was noted for the 25 feet of the 190, of the southernmost 25 feet of the 190 feet for ingress egress purposes for future development for the areas back to the south.
And I think it should be noted that we have been, as the city and county, working together on this development site for, could it be years, Dan? I mean, really.
At least a year before I got here, and it's been a year since I've been here, so.
So, we've been really trying to work together on what's really the best for both entities. One of the things that I'm hopeful for is, and I don't think the map really shows that, but where the old Bank Mutual building is, when you remove that, you have that common alley, and then the county owns the parking lot on the other side of that alley. So there is a potential development site that would, run the whole face of that block, which is why we're kind of thinking of that Monroe exit. Like if you're going to maybe have that building face with the corner of Monroe, hold the corner of Monroe and Cherry, right? That you're probably going to want to come in that parking area in between those buildings. So like, let's do that easement there. So even if there's some type of combined parking, because this is still county, this will be county land. So they'll be able to develop that and potentially combine that parking for a higher use that is across from the library for a larger project. So in the future, hopefully, that would be the goal, to get as much development as we can and not have to.
This right here is the grandfathered surface lot the county owns in the southwest corner of that block. The remaining parcels are Encompass childcare that you're seeing. Those are the 5 parcels.
So the only access point in that block is that Monroe cut, right?
So from an actual, you have the alleyway that is still there, but as far as access points from either Pine, Monroe, or Cherry, it's the existing one that is, not at the mid-block, it's closer to the intersection, then code would really prefer it to be mid-block as far as where these drive-ins should be.
And then, so then this will be, so now this, I guess, it really depends on the development, but so that development, the new development that will go in the south would be able to utilize that parking lot
Well, you know, the county's going to be the owner
of all of that?
of all of it. So how the development comes forward, you know, how the dynamic is built, I know they need the parking, they'll also need the parking for the county employees.
Right.
100 spots on the other side to the west. So that when the development comes in, they'll need to provide some serious parking that happens in that area. But
I mean, the county's not gonna like, try to like defend their parking lot if there is something like a multi-story parking lot or a building that has parking in it, I mean.
You already have a parking lot right there.
Well, right, I know, but this is a new fancier parking lot.
So my question is, the Pine Street ramp, is that typically at full capacity? Or do we have those numbers?
Right. I would
it is
suggest
not,
it's
it's
not
not
at
at
full
full
capacity.
capacity.
Even
Are you
with
talking
us
about
in Imperial, it's
How
not.
people are accessing, the ease of accessing the building.
Right, one of the arguments from the county is the need to be closer to the entrances for the users who are utilizing the site. And with the addition of ADRC, and generally, you know, families, smaller children, they'll want to be closer to the building than where you have your aspect of the Pine ramp, which is going to be a block away at that point. So trying to focus both here and then eventually potentially on Pine Street for additional parking.
Could be wrong. It just looks like the Pine Street ramp is about the same distance from the corner of the library building as the parking lot they're proposing to the south.
Yeah, so this is the Pine Street ramp right here that we're seeing as it cuts around and comes back around this way. It's obviously a larger facility, so if you happen to be parked closer towards Hotel Northland, you're quite a bit of ways, but if you happen to be closer towards US Bank, you are fairly close to the entry points on the western part of the building.
And there's an electronic walkway, I don't know what those are called.
RFBs?
Yes.
This on Madison, between the parking lot and then just to the north of the library.
I guess I'm just having trouble with the need for parking. I don't see the need.
Tend to agree, Ken. For my total, that's 113 spots dedicated to the library between the street, 40 on site, 53 across the street. In addition, that's not even counting the Pine Street ramp, and 250 so across the street in Monroe. It's a hard pill to swallow to be putting another parking lot in right there. That is my biggest rub with this.
Well, we've
And I'm
already
also-
heard that 50% of downtown is serviced by parking.
Right.
That seems like it would be 55% or 60%. Seems a lot.
Well, this would be raising and removing the existing building, which has not been used now for approximately 3 years on the site, and trying to get that southern portion of the block to become development ready here in the future. But yes, it would, if there wasn't the Pine Street, if this was all just one contiguous parcel, this wouldn't be an issue. But the case is, they're not, they're two separate parcels, which is why we're here today discussing this.
And I'm sorry, the bank building is going to be demolished.
Yeah.
With what's being proposed here, with trying to utilize the site for the parking on the northern half of the block, yes, the bank will be demolished.
Yeah, I guess,
'Cause I also just have a hard time believing that after investing money into that parking lot, that it'll just be a few years from now, like, oh yeah, we'll tear up that brand new
right,
parking lot.
they're gonna defend that
With all
building.
that new infrastructure we put in underneath. Like, it just, that doesn't sit right.
But I think the intent would be that the southern part of the lot would be the development part.
The development.
That parking lot in the corner would likely stay. I don't think there's probably really any intent to develop that.
Probably used for the
Why not?
For what other new?
That's,
Right. That is
So,
that's a
I-
lot of space.
I do have a question, because, I mean, obviously, the library's been operating with the amount of parking that they've had. So we're adding those lots in the lot itself, another, 13 you said lots in the parking lot, and then we're doing
Hard. No.
the slanty parking on the street versus parallel. So, I mean, we're adding a lot. What kind of parking does the cafe, the ADRC, and the job center? I mean, on a usual basis, what kind of parking do those three entities really use? Because I know where they're at, and they just have street parking really where they are.
And why can't that go to the ramp?
I think the accessible parking is the key there.
Accessibility
The
is,
question
right.
is how much.
Right, if we have the slanty parking, that's the
Within-
technical term.
Yeah, right behind the
Or
library.
change the
The
word
diagonal
to
parking.
slant, yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the parking behind the, I mean, I feel like that's a lot of additional parking right there. Do we really need a whole, I mean, I guess part of it is you're trying to get ready that Bank Mutual lot, kind of getting it ready for a future development too, but
There's 60 stalls either on site or street, with what's proposed right there. What is the biggest event that's happening at the Disability Center? Because that's who's going to use the accessible
who
parking.
needs an accessibility?
So Danny's here from the county, but I see Devin Christensen from the ADRC is here at the meeting as well. I don't know if you want to speak to the ADRC needs, but they might be the best people to ask these questions to.
And Sarah Sugden is the library director is also here.
Oh. And the library director's here.
Well, I was going to open the door.
No, I appreciate you.
Waiting patiently.
Right, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can try and address some of the questions and concerns you guys may have with what looks to be additional parking that we're creating here. So keep in mind, currently on Pine Street, and again, the on-street parking is not part of the PUD request, but it's part of the bigger picture. There is currently parallel parking on both sides of the street. So really, in total, between what we're changing on Pine Street by doing the diagonal parking, as well as maybe a couple of additional spaces on Madison Street, before you would get to the new driveway entrance, really, you're only looking at a handful of new parking spaces being created on street. The Bank Mutual site in particular, I believe, if my memory serves me, the current configuration has approximately 60 spaces on the site already. So with the county talking about demolishing the building, which I think would be a good thing, it's about a $400,000 investment that the county is making into redevelopment opportunities within the downtown. And we're getting a nicer, newer parking lot on the north half of that lot. It's a significant investment to put 54 parking spaces in on the north half of the lot. To address some of the other concerns that I heard, just with the county not giving up the other associated parking lot, the county is 100% invested in finding a redevelopment for the site. This surface level parking on the north half of the Bank Mutual site is absolutely part of those redevelopment discussions. We have been in discussions with a developer for the entire L-shaped two parcels. So there is a design proposal out there that both county staff as well as city staff has seen that incorporates a structured parking as well as development on Monroe, as well as, I believe, is at Cherry Street, fronting both streets. So there are options, there are opportunities for redevelopment. This would be essentially a temporary parking lot that's being created as the county and city continue to work together toward those redevelopment efforts. So one of the other items that the county has been talking to the city about is, in conjunction with this planned unit development, is developing some type of agreement, a development agreement between the county and the city that identifies the county retaining ownership and continuing to market the sites with the city, and then ensuring that if a redevelopment opportunity comes, that the county is insured 100 parking stalls if all of that property, the L-shaped property, is taken for redevelopment. So essentially, the county continues to have our 100 parking spaces approximately that we have on that L-shaped property. We don't lose anything, but the city gains by having a very large redevelopment on that site. So there have been a number of discussions about these things, and certainly there are going to be more discussions as we continue through this process. But that's where the county is at, and trying to identify the highest and best use for the property at this time. Really, it's to address the accessibility concerns of our ADRC clients who are older, who do have accessibility issues, and that utilizing a parking ramp, while may be possible, it is certainly a deterrent for those folks versus surface level parking. And I will say that this is not intended for Brown County employee parking. This is library, ADRC, job center. This is for the clients.
Question on do those 53 or 54 lots,
54 parcels?
yeah,
Yep.
are they needed to make that 100 with the other?
Yeah, so currently on the associated lot, we have about 67 or 68 spaces on there, and that's with it being grandfathered in. So if anything would happen to that parcel, we would have to go back and redesign and reconfigure that. We would lose parking there anyway. So overall, in the big picture, the county is just looking to retain 100 spaces between all of that property. Yeah, if we have 54 on the north half of Bank Mutual plus the 68, we're going to have more than that for the interim. But we just want to be ensured that we have 100 spaces moving forward.
Would there be an issue with, okay, there seems to be just a lot of parking going south, north of the existing building that's going to be torn down. Why is it going that far south? Why not just have one bunch of parking to the, right off the street to the north on that parking ramp instead of working its way south? You know what I'm saying? See that,
I don't know if I'm-
the existing building right there,
Yep.
you've got, I can barely see it, but there's parking going, there's another row of part stalls,
On the concrete?
yeah, on concrete.
Yep.
Why do we need that? Can't we just go with the, what's on the black asphalt and leave it less pre-made? I mean, readjusting it with new material and pavement and all that, it may be torn up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so like reduce the total number of parking stalls that we're looking to
Yeah, from
retain.
54 down to like 38 or whatever.
Yeah. So really, this is driven by the ADRC, and the ADRC knows their clientele really well. They know about how many people they serve on a daily basis. And the good thing is that as far as, like peak parking demand, the peak parking demand between ADRC events and library events, they shouldn't have much conflict. So many of the events that the library hosts are during the day. Many of the events that the ADRC is hosting are not coinciding with those same event times. So in that sense, yes, the overlap in the need for parking, it's not like we're Walmart and we need to plan for Thanksgiving Day and have a sea of parking. But the ADRC, as far as they are concerned, the 50-ish, 54 spaces was what they were targeting on that parcel.
Okay, and if we look at ADRC and the other things that are gonna be there, you theoretically need all that parking for it to run smoothly from expected volumes of cars that are coming to those buildings. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And you still have a ramp that's underutilized.
We've had a number of discussions with city staff, and it sounds like that ramp is filling up quite quickly. So I don't know exactly how many parking stalls are left in the ramp, but there had been some discussions about trying to utilize that for the county employees to park. But that was, again, that was more focused on the employees parking there, and not the actual clients and patrons of the library, ADRC, job center, and Ground and Cafe.
Yeah, on that Cherry Street side, that does a lot of parking though.
Oh, to the east.
On this,
To the left.
right across from the library.
not to bring a different issue in, but the Main Street ramp's gonna get retired at some point. I believe allocating most of that goes to the Pine Street ramp, so they're probably saving some of that space for that eventual.
I don't, is the Main Street ramp going away?
It is.
Your employer.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
2031.
sorry, Main
Yeah.
Street is around the corner. I'm still talking about Pine. That's what I'm like.
It's just-
Park.
for-
You mean Main Street?
Not Pine, no, that one's just.
You talking about Main, across from KI?
I
Sorry.
think it's just such a hard sell because I'm looking at the aerial map and there's huge parking lot across the street,
This
parking
would
lot,
be
parking
different
lot, parking
if
lot.
the original apartment was built across the street from the road. We'd have a whole different perspective of this
Right,
if
right.
that wasn't, along with other ones too.
Right. So if the county owns that whole L-shaped lot and the other parking lot on the southwest side, I mean, are you gonna vacate the alley to?
So
Yep.
the
Oh, wow.
county owns, this is the parcel that's in question. The county owns this surface lot as well
Mhm.
here. There is the alley. Now, with where the county has shown where the last of the stalls would go, it would be right around this midpoint. That extra 25 feet would be just to the south of this dash line to get to 190 in total for the northernmost 190 feet. With, you know, as far as just long-term plan discussions, that if, you know, one owner of the county owns both of these, that yes, there wouldn't be a need to have an alley run down this block, especially given that you still have access eventually happening here and here for incumbents in the future.
But there's overhead lines right there. I assume there's other utilities in the ground too.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know that we can vacate that lane.
John, I think Public Works staff looked into that. I don't know that there are underground utilities that you might want to double check. I think it was just the overhead.
Right. If I recall in the discussions that we had, that there might have been some underground sewer lines that were happening here. But either way, whatever would be happening with construction, that would be beyond surface parking. There'd be a review as far as what it means for either taking account for or moving utilities to make that redevelopment happen in the future.
Right now, do we know how many parking spaces AVRC has right now? For their street parking?
Yeah. I'll have that one.
Because this sounds like it'll be tripling what they currently have.
That sounds like,
Have you seen the amount of old people in this town?
Yeah, they're, I don't know about
They might be
that.
triple now.
Actually, isn't it the older population is more than the younger population? Like there's less young people being born?
Don't make me depressed.
Wasn't Green Bay, actually, is it more older people than younger people? Didn't we just have, I know that I saw that. No, I promise you, I just saw that. That there was, it's
Why are
a.
you looking at me?
I know that.
I thought you were looking at me.
The old man group meets at the library and they are like taking up all the parking space. They're really busy when they come.
Really?
I forgot what it's called, but it's a group of old men that once a month I town.
Every week.
Is it every week?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Retirement group, sorry, I call them old men, but retirement group. It's like 100 of them or more.
So there's obviously, there's a hodgepodge of a lot of parking stalls. There's a lot
They have
that
seven-
happen down in this area. This is the ADRC's existing facility, but then there are other county lots that are nearby, shared parking in the overall area.
Yeah, so there are some additional parking lots to the south that the county rents for those parking stalls so that they have adequate parking. So, and you'll notice that the current ADRC situation, those are directly adjacent to the ADRC. So, you know, this is already asking their clientele who have ambulatory issues and stuff to park in a lot across the street, or maybe behind the building if there's open spaces on site. But yeah, we are really trying to create very close, convenient parking for those ADRC folks that are coming in for regular events.
I know as much as we don't like parking lots, there's already a parking lot there. And I do see the benefit in having all of these resources, you know, the library, the job center, the ADRC, and a cafe, I see that as being a convenience. I don't want it, I just don't want a pretty parking lot.
You know, it's been brought up before that 50% of downtown is parking lots, and we're adding.
Well, I mean,
more
just
spaces.
like, but this is a parking lot for future development, so it's like, kind of like a, it's like a hope. And I don't
Could
like
also
that,
get torn out, and then a waste of taxpayer dollars.
I mean, it could be that too.
And Monroe is
Because,
certainly a parking lot.
but it sounds like they're also talking to someone, but then that's also not a guarantee,
True,
so.
talked-
Too many
For 2 years.
uncertainties on that.
Yeah.
What's that parcel number? 11?
18 dash, lots of ones.
Parcel number, right here?
Yeah.
11-188.
188?
Wasn't one of the primary, well, one of the things that will happen is the building's gonna go away. Doesn't
That'll
that
also be
make
a nice
that
thing.
a lot more attractive for potential buyers?
I think it does because they don't have to invest that money to demolish.
In a
the
weird
building.
shaped, oddly, odd, you know, an odd building.
Right.
I would make a motion, I don't know if we're ready for that, but I was just gonna throw it out there.
Can I just add one thing real quick? So the renovations that are proposed for the library, it's around 25 million, sir? So it's a $25 million investment that we're trying to make into the library building itself, just the renovations within the library.
I kind of mean to interrupt
Yeah, go
your
ahead.
motion, but can we review, this was a little bit ago, what was the language specific around the development of, or partnership between the county and the city to market the lot, whatever that,
We did not include that with this
We're not
PD,
including
because
this?
we're looking at this through a land use, and rather than what could be for development in the future. We didn't want to include anything with this as far as concepts of ideas, because there's nothing that's been truly put forward on this. So the part of language that we felt like, okay, what do we need to hold strong on this with the idea of trying to encourage redevelopment of this area in the future was the twofold of the 140 feet. That has to just be, that cannot be, we've seen places where it's become gravel lots and then trying to give people, you need to see this, or it needs to be seen to where it's ready to go for development here in the future. And then the additional part of this where the county is showing, trying to maximize the amount of stalls as much as possible in this northern part of the parcel, while still having some landscaping standard, or meeting typical landscape standards for a parking lot in the downtown, to allow for that mid-block entry to be to where you would have accessibility to those uses back to the south, especially with the notion potentially being that if the surface lot were to stay in perpetuity to the north, that this area back down this way would have as much area as possible for development, acknowledging there would probably be a desire to have a drive entrance off of one of these, multiple, especially, but a drive entrance off of Monroe that could be then shared between two individual users. Or potentially, if it is one giant user in the future, just that's a spot, it's a mid-block entrance, which should be, when it comes to design with the code, the preferable spot for a drive entrance off of Monroe itself.
alternative perspective. It's site prep for a lot, or a lot that's been attempted to be built a couple times, and we're just kind of putting a parking lot.
Or,
I'm trying to talk myself into it.
or
Can't do it.
there's parking spaces that won't be utilized and that's just gonna be empty spaces. And they're gonna sit there. So if you live, work down, you're just gonna have empty spaces.
I'm willing to buy what they're saying in terms of the usage of it. Yes, the Pine Ramp is closed, but for a disability person, that's really not an option, and it would dissuade usage of it.
But you have 28 diagonal parking spaces.
20.
Is it-
20.
oh.
But
And there's about 10 there right now for my count. So it's a modest increase in that regard. Yeah.
So what if a big development comes in, one big development comes in on the southern portion of that block, and they need, I guess they would have to just figure out their parking for their, well, no, I mean, they would still need, because there's only one access
Well, it
point.
depends what they're building.
I
Different
get-
apartments
right.
versus.
It's apartments, they could put like, you know, the first floor or two, parking or something, you know,
Underground.
yeah, all of that, right.
Yeah, the only use down here that is required to have parking would be for residential uses. The library itself is not required to have parking. Acknowledge that people are going to park their, vehicles nearby, especially for ADRC use, but that's the only requirement.
I want to say yes to this, but just because of the convenience factor of all those things being together, but the parking lot.
Well, I think I'm convinced that ADRC, those parking stalls are a benefit for them to walk across the street and get in. I park in the Pine Street ramp a lot because I go to the gym. That thing's getting full. I've driven up to the second, third floors and I couldn't find a spot. So that may be certain days or whatever, but Pine Street is being used. And I think people who are going to want to use those developments in that library are going to want a parking go in. So I'm kind of convinced the way they have the parking right now is letting them park and go in, okay? Now, I'm okay to okay that, to get this going, because this thing has been sitting there with that empty building for year after year after year. Let's get rid of that building, that's a good thing, and then let's develop the rest of it. To me, just because there's some more parking on the north side of south of Pine Street is not a big deal. I mean, I don't like seeing it, but to me, it makes that development work with those things they're putting in the library. It just makes it work. So that's why I'm looking at it. It's not just it's just not a parking lot on the surface. It's a parking lot where people are going to walk in and go, who need to walk short distances. So
I mean, you can make that argument everywhere then,
well, not so much.
yeah, everyone wants to have.
Well, everyone does, but everyone doesn't need it, like some of the people that do, so.
Also, what's preventing them from just using the existing parking that's there and not developing a new reconstruct parking lot? Why couldn't they just tear that building down and utilize what's already paved?
The use that you'd be taking down, the principal use, the primary use, that would no longer be established at that point. So at that point, you'd be going to there would be no legal nonconformity because it wasn't used as a parking lot as a principal use. It was used as an accessory use to the bank itself. So if there's a user inside of that building, then parking is fine down there. But if we're just talking about straight up bank be gone, building be gone, the surface lot is not a principal use.
So no one can use that parking lot right now? Because there's no primary user?
Technically speaking, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
We ran tickets.
That's probably.
No, they've been e-files.
Like, those tickets.
I do have a quick question, I'm sorry.
Can I say, I have an
Yeah.
email up here for 24, that looks like the Pine Street ramp has 681 stalls. The Pine project, the housing project, I'm not sure, they've got 66 units, I'm not sure how many they're using in that building as well.
Yeah.
But then, of course, Main Street.
Yeah, and my
When
question
that
was gonna
comes
be
down.
with the US Bank, I don't know what's called now, US Bank building,
Yep.
those residents, are they gonna park, and I'm talking about the North Madison side of the ramp, right across from Imperial? That's what I was saying, that is underutilized.
Well, right, the residents are gonna park closest to their entrance to the building, so.
Because there's not a skywalk, but there's a
They're
covered
gonna build,
walkway.
yes, I think they're gonna, build that walkway.
There's already a walkway that goes
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
parking lot there.
They would be
That used to
parking
my
on
bank.
that end that
They
you're
were
talking
parking on the North Madison Street.
Well, that's the
Basically right
closest
there, like right,
Yeah, that
yeah,
right there,
right
where
there.
the crosswalk is,
That's right.
across from Imperial. So there would be some parking spaces
And then that
taken up
walkway's
with the
right there.
bank, with the
With the US Bank building.
US Bank building.
Chair? If I could just maybe offer up, the reality is, you already have a parking lot there.
Right.
Right? The difference is it looks like garbage, and I think this will look better. And if you think about how long it takes sometimes to attract the right developer on a parcel, you're talking years, right? I mean, Monroe, how long have we owned that? Actually, that was the first year I was on council. 8 years, we've owned that lot, and we still have not broken ground. So to me, if this is what gets Brown County to put $27 million into that facility, gets you a temporary, better visual use of what's there. One thing that Dan mentioned to me here on the side, is that there's a conversation around a development agreement with the city, and I just can't help but wonder, and John, maybe you would know this, I know sometimes we can't put conditions on approvals of things sometimes, like a liquor license, but when you're talking about a PUD, can you put conditions like approval of a development agreement? Because I'm wondering if it would help having those things go hand in hand and give maybe this body the assurance that there's a pullback mechanism to allow that development when it's ready for it. But I would hate to see it sit in its current condition and potentially the library not making investment for the next 8 years while we wait for a developer to actually take interest in it when there's something we can imminently do to enhance that area, while, simultaneously working on the development long-term.
Yeah. So we consider that as far as adding that language or a sunset to this overall PUD. I'll harken back to, we had one here relatively recently over on South Military where there was a sunset for a PUD for the old Shopko building. And that was a challenge to make that a go with folks because deadlines happened and things were not executed upon, and then I was trying to find ways to make compromise work for redevelopment on that site into the future. So we looked at this through the lens of saying, okay, the two parts where we felt confident was raise the building, green space, 140. Those were the actions that we thought were most appropriate. You can put a sunset in there, but just keep in mind,
More red tape.
I don't say it's red tape, but eventually that sunset will happen.
Yeah.
And it's kicking the can in a way on that.
And if somebody wants to make improvements, to the parking lot, I don't know that the sunset is what I would prioritize as I would air rights. And I know air rights can come with a lot of different restrictions, rules, requirements, right? But what's going through my mind is, the air rights would allow you to basically, as long as you replace those stalls in some capacity, like through a new development, then you can execute that when you have that private development ready to go. And that allows kind of what is being requested right now to proceed while still giving you that ability to pursue that development long-term. I've just seen, too often times we maybe hold out for the perfect solution that just takes too long to happen. I don't want a parking lot here long-term. You guys have heard me talk about this. We shouldn't have surface lots in downtown, but I think if we can get a better-looking surface lot than what we currently have, while simultaneously allowing us to achieve two objectives, I think that's probably a better scenario than just saying no and then potentially the library not making any investment right now because we can't solve the problems for the job center and ADRC.
Question for, I don't know your name, I forgot your name.
Dan.
Dan from the county. Is there any concern with the width of the diagonal parking spaces that are proposed, knowing that the ADRC has older?
I can barely park in those.
I hate them.
I'm a
Just
good parker.
Yeah, so,
the width of the parking, the diagonal parking.
yeah,
spaces.
the width, the standard 9-foot width, I don't think that we're requesting any additional space be added to that. The one item, though, with on-street parking, just to make everything fit within the existing curb space, and this is more for the what's the other committee? INS committee, is consideration of shortening those stalls just slightly, because the city's code requires them to be a little bit deeper than we can make fit with the parallel parking and then fitting two 11-foot drive lanes. But no, we're not looking, I think we've provided enough adequate handicap parking spaces within the new surface parking lot, as well as trying to add the additional 2 spaces behind the library. And we have the option of going as high as 2, 4, 6, 8 additional handicap spaces with the walkway that we're going to be creating through the parking lot. So all of those would be accessible parking spaces.
And all of these are meter parking spaces, correct?
The county doesn't have meters on our stalls.
On
On the road there, I know.
From the street?
On the street.
Oh.
Yeah, the street would, because that's still city right away. So yeah,
So a lot of
city
parking
controls.
would be free parking?
What's that?
Oh, no, yeah, because the county owns that, they don't have meters. No, that, fair question. I was just saying.
Within
Thank
private
you.
parking lots, the width for requirements would be 8 feet for a compact stall and 9 feet for a normal stall.
Are they planning on taking all those trees down?
If this were to happen, have to be in discussions with forestry on that as far as street tree removal. If that is in the park, sorry, if that's in the public right of way, if it's not in the public right of way, from our perspective, when meeting a site plan, this goes back into the idea of what do you need to have for the edge of a surface parking lot meeting landscape code, which is going to require having 3 foot tall combination of landscaping berming, and then there is a street tree requirement, but I would doubt it be quite as robust as this. It's usually 1 per 50 feet, and this looks to be a little bit less than that, so.
How would we go about adding the air rights above all of parcel 11-188? How would that look?
That's a good question.
What would our recommendation?
Yeah.
Because it still can be denied.
Hold on. Ken, were you going to make a motion? Because if you're not, I'm going to.
I was, but I might be amending it depending on how this goes. I was basically, my motion was going to be to approve everything excluding everything related to parcel 11-188. So basically allowing the project to go forward except the parking lot.
And I was on board with Ken until I heard the US Bank building was going to park in the North Madison Street parking lot, parking deck, because that parking deck is fairly empty. And I don't know how many units are going into the US Bank building, but if they're only parking, it's not, I know.
66.
Yeah,
That's that, because those 3 levels, whatever, that side of the parking ramp is never really full at all.
The later side downtown anyway, so that makes,
Yeah.
most users would come from.
I know, I think Imperial Park's there, and they're like the only ones.
So my initial motion was to just exclude that parcel. But I could include it if we could figure out how to put full air rights above it.
We can't exclude a parcel from a PUD at this stage, right? We can't do that. I guess we
Well,
could, but.
You could, but this was what was brought forward was with both those areas, correct?
Yeah.
Also, we've never done air rights as a city, I assume, right?
We have air rights for Broadway,
Lot U.
right?
The redevelopment authority used to own that parcel, and before they turned it over privately, they put the air rights on it, and the intent was to allow for vertical development at some point.
I mean, I think we'd have to work with the county on, because the county owns it. So we'd have to work with the county on some type of it. I'm just Googling it here. Maybe an easement of some sort for an air right, because either you purchase them or.
I just think
But that would be
that's more
something
red-
that
That's more red tape.
the county would have to.
I'm worried about
More than what, it's not.
But that could be part of the side development agreement that is being discussed.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. There are many pieces to this puzzle. I will say this, on behalf of Devin, I don't know if she's still on the call, but Devin will tell you that the exclusion of that surface level parking lot is a deal breaker for the ADRC. If it's a deal breaker for the ADRC, then that's $27 million investment into downtown that's not going to happen. So, you know.
I see Devin shaking her head.
So it's really, again, it's important that the ADRC have that close, convenient, and accessible parking. But at the same time, you know, please keep in your mind that the county is 100% committed to making this project work and to working with the city for the redevelopment of the entire property, all of that L-shaped land that the county owns on that block. And again, if there is the right development, we absolutely will consider removing that parking as long as we have 100 parking spaces in that overall development plan. So, and the city does have a copy of the concept that has been floated in front of us. So you, if you want, you can absolutely request a copy of that. I can even send it to you if you'd like, just as a concept of what could happen.
Ken, do you want to make a motion, otherwise I'm here with the baton?
I mean,
You probably won't like my motion, so I'm giving you an
right,
opportunity.
do we have language for air rights, I guess is the question. No.
What, with the air rights, I mean, would it, is the goal of this to note that the possibility of air rights can exist at a certain level for mixed-use development that would be independent of the ownership at the ground level?
What I would suggest is, honestly, you could approve this as is, with the one contingency that you successfully approve a development agreement between the county and the city. And that development agreement is where you can let the air rights negotiation take place, and I don't think it needs to hold this up, but the purpose of the air rights is that it would give the city the ability to pull the trigger at any point with securing development, provided that you replace those parking stalls in some capacity within your development. So I think what makes this the cleanest and easiest tonight, again, is just approve and then contingent on the development agreement.
How do you feel about that?
How does that feel about that?
I will also note, the county is, at least for the previous proposal that we had in front of us, the county was in discussion with the developer about donating land as part of that overall development package. So the county is, we're invested in seeing redevelopment happen on the site. It's just, this is kind of the interim if something doesn't happen.
I believe that, first of all, and I also am buying that they need additional parking spots for the ADRC. There's not enough on site. It needs to be found somewhere. Where are you gonna find these additional parking spots? There's no other spot available at this moment. So if we believe them and take them at their word that they need the accessible spots,
That's the question.
there's no other place to get them than across the street. So if we're doing that, let's take advantage of the opportunity, raise the site, prep it for development, allow the process to continue moving forward, and hopefully let it be the catalyst that ignites the rest. Sorry, my voice is going, but.
No, I agree with that. I guess, is there any way that I mean, I don't think that they're gonna do this, but that if we say, okay, you can have this parking lot here, then the other parking lot that they have on the southwestern side, that they can't like redo that and make that into a fancy parking lot too, like we want that a development.
Well, it would be principal use then in that case. Or no, because that is attached to the other.
But the alley is running through, so it's complicated right now.
The way that lot is right now, it has a legal non-conforming use.
Which
would
side
be-
is legal non-conforming?
The one you
Which-
just read.
Oh, this
The
one here.
old, that one, that's legal non-conforming?
Because
Yeah.
it's, principal use
Okay.
is surface
There's
parking.
nothing there.
There's
Oh,
nothing there, it's
gotcha.
surface parking.
Okay, good, so they can't make a fancier new lot.
You can do repairs to the lot,
You can wholesale it.
but you cannot reconstruct the lot, which means once you expose the gravel surface beyond 500 square feet, you've now lost your non-conforming use. So you'd have to either repair the lot, or it goes, if it would come to a point where it would be non-repairable, you have to find an actual principal use on the lot.
So I mean, this is a partnership between the county and the city. I mean, I guess I trust staff.
There's, the incentives are aligned to develop this site.
Right.
There is not, this isn't a situation where we expect someone's gonna defend the parking. They're not, they don't even meet the lot. That's
Right.
space for
Right.
that.
People
Right.
defend parking all the time.
No, I, yeah,
Especially
no,
when
you're
they
right.
invest, how much does it cost per stall to put in curbed landscaped parking? Like, that's gonna be the next argument they come back with is, well, you know,
Sure.
4 years ago, we put this lot in for $15,000 a stall, we're not gonna tear it out now.
Maybe. I don't buy that the incentives are aligned for them to develop this site. That's what my concern was from the start of this, is there's the proper incentives aligned for them to develop this spot to the south. And I think it's there in the best way it can be constituted right now.
I absolutely love the investment, just it's a lot of parking. But what you said, Vice Chairman, I mean, you have to trust in the process, it's just a lot of parking.
I agree, and if it honestly wasn't for the ADRC, I wouldn't have this opinion, but I do believe in that they need more spots than they can manage on site, and this is the best place to get it, and the rest of it just kind of waterfalls from there to get us to this point. With that, I'm going to just make a motion to approve it as stated, no conditions. And if we need to
Well,
remove,
the recommendations for, I think it's at A,
Oh,
B1, B2, C, and the additional language paragraph.
What you wrote on that
As
screen.
presented,
Yeah.
yeah.
as recommended, but no additional contingencies to development agreements, air rights, anything like that. And if we need to renegotiate from there, just let's start with the basic approval.
Second.
Okay. All right, so we've got a second. Okay. All right.
You want
Do we-
additional comment? I would say.
I was gonna say, do we have any additional,
I feel like having the contingency of the development agreement should be added, but I will vote no without that added.
I don't want to add it because I don't want to complicate it.
And
I don't think, right, and
And the whole point for me is to get, personally, I want to get that site to the south in a position so somebody can be move-in ready when they figure out whatever that is.
because
That's
we've
my
seen that
biggest-
come a couple times and nothing's come to
Never, yeah.
fruition.
Yeah.
But to Ken's point, it's gonna stay a parking lot.
Right, that,
Absolutely.
that north end would probably will.
The north end, no, I totally
Yeah,
anticipate
you-
that will be
yep.
the case. But I'm willing to live with it because, again, it gets the parking for the ADRC and enables the rest.
You know, let me just say this, though. I think the plus of a development agreement is, I guess, to make sure that there's an easy transfer of land. If a development comes forward, let's say we find the developer as the city, and we bring a development forward that this makes an easier transfer of land from the county to the city to get that development going. That would be my only concern, because it's up to the board, you know, it's the politics of the county side with regards to whether they release the land and sell the land for development. I mean, Dan and I, we're the staff, well, we're gonna work together on this deal, right? But I'm thinking like politics in play. You know, if you have this development agreement, which we've already talked about, and put some ideas to paper.
The county's not opposed to the development agreement.
Right, I mean, I guess, John, are you seeing, is there be a reason to not have a contingency on that, or?
It's not timeline related. The part where we've had our biggest is the sunsetting and the practicality of it actually occurring. What happens when we hit that sunset?
John, this isn't a sunset. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm not,
I don't
yep.
mean to-
And that's why, when it comes, if we're not talking that with this,
Right.
that we feel.
Right.
Is it indefinite then, or what is the?
So the PUD doesn't go into effect unless the development agreement gets put together and actually signed by both parties, right? So the PUD is contingent upon that development agreement coming to fruition. Does that make sense?
But then you're talking about the development for the lower half, and we're not talking about the ADRC and the library and all that, which is what we're trying to help.
Right, which is you approving the PUD.
Right,
We've done
Because
our-
right now.
Right.
At that point, we've done our.
right,
Yeah.
right,
It's zone downtown,
right.
that's what it is, and that's what we want to see for.
And we have a new parking lot.
Okay, so we do have, I guess, a motion and a second.
Do we want to, will we get, will get your vote if you allow the development agreement? Okay, I will modify to, I'll stipulate the condition of the development agreement as part of it, in addition to all the other recommendations that you had.
Okay, but then doesn't that, if that development doesn't go through, then we've just messed with the library, the ADRC, the cafe.
No, it's executing a development agreement between the city
Oh, okay.
and the county
Yeah.
to work on redeveloping it.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's not considered a road.
It's not a development agreement for a certain development or anything in particular, just in general, the city and county working together.
Very
That's my understanding?
Very general. Yes.
Okay. So it's not a roadblock.
No, it shouldn't be a roadblock. Staff, we've talked, and the county
Okay.
executive and the mayor, I think, have both been made aware
Okay.
that there have been discussions about that agreement.
Okay.
We've seen concepts, but they're ideas.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
so we don't want to bring that forth saying, this could happen.
Yeah.
Because it's
Right.
not,
No, we know that, yeah.
this is where development agreements in the future as far as what this could mean for that parcel back off to the southwest.
Okay.
Could play no role as far as getting something
Right.
listed on the block.
I just don't want one thing holding up the other.
Yeah, I think that we all want the investment.
Right.
And we don't want to put, I don't want to say red tape, but a roadblock,
But
a hurdle.
Well, if it's
They should know how
contingent,
much
it
we
would
don't
be.
like parking.
If you make it contingent, it would be, because you'd have bodies approve it before you move forward with the PUD, compared to encouraging staff to work together on something. And that's the difference. If you make it contingent, then city council's going to need to approve that DA, county board's going to need to approve that DA before they can move forward with the project. I think if it's contingent. If you don't want that to be contingent, then I would say, motion to approve it and encourage staff to work with the county on a development agreement. Then that, tells us basically our marching orders are to work with the county on the development agreement.
But it wouldn't be the holdup.
It
as
would
far
not
as-
hold the PUD up.
Otherwise, PD does not go into effect until those are agreed by both parties.
I mean, we're beholden to the people that vote on these things, right?
Right.
So if for some reason the county board's like, no, we don't like this development agreement, that holds the project up. Same thing with city council, right?
And you talk
But then
about,
ultimately, that would be on the county to say, well, we didn't like the development agreement, so they are holding up.
Right, that's the
their
decision,
PUD.
is what I'm saying.
Right.
If you make it contingent, I think
And
that's
quite
what-
honestly-
One of the things I want to stay out of politics.
well, quite honestly, it's only a recommendation to go to city council and approve what they're going to do. That's a politics right there, so we just spent an hour talking about something that you get over.
Jim had 2 seconds.
So,
What you said is important.
I'm just saying,
Stay down in politics?
All right.
that's political.
All right, guys, hold on a second.
Timelines are important, right? And I
Right.
think we're kind of honing in on the fact that by adding the contingency is going to delay this. And
Right.
Just asking Dan, I mean, they're trying to find money before the end of the year to even tear down the building, 2 years before they hire an architect and do the designs and everything else. So my point is, if you add that contingency, you're not holding anything up. There's plenty of time to get both of these done and still be able to accomplish all the goals here. So I just wanted to at least put that time frame perspective on this. And if, worst case scenario, you can't come to an agreement because of the governmental bodies, you can bring it right back here and modify the PUD and just
Right.
remove the DA requirement and life goes on.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can you repeat your amendment? What you were adding?
Was to add the development agreement, I don't want to use the wrong word, contingency, that the city and the county will agree to.
Agree upon?
Agree upon.
Work together.
Okay.
Well, there's work together and there's agree upon. That's what, will you execute the development agreement, or is it to encourage?
I'm more for the softer
I'm
version.
more for the, being an HR, I'm more for the encourage.
So encourage a
Well, then why
development
put it in there
agreement
at all?
between.
Well, yeah, we
Right.
don't even need.
But then is that even wording? Is that,
Right.
right, that's not strong enough to be in something.
Make it hard.
This is why I went with the original recommendation.
Yeah,
and avoid-
right.
I was probably that too.
Yes.
But you have to amend your amendment.
Unless you don't.
I was just saying, I didn't have,
No, that's it. The one who's actually keeping track of things here needs to know what's going on, so that's great. I'm fine with either way. I'm just trying to make sure we have the votes to get this moved through. I don't need the contingency.
I don't need.
I'm fine with just, and maybe we just need to do this, and if we need to come back, we can vote again if we need it. Let's just do the initial approval of the request, no contingencies, with your added PVC.
Okay, so you have a first. You're still second, okay.
there's no amendment to the original.
Just what was on the screen.
Original recommendation,
Right.
yes.
Okay,
Thank you for keeping us honest.
right. Okay, so, any further discussion?
Just a point of order, I mean, it's, because I know Ken said he wants an amendment, I mean, you can't offer that as an amendment, and the amendment can either pass or fail to the motion that's on the floor, so.
And so let's vote on this one.
I can-
Well, no, you would amend the primary motion.
But if you try to make an amendment, he doesn't accept it.
Well, if you have
Yes,
amendment,
I see.
or do you need a second for the amendment?
Well, you would, right, but my point is, you vote on the amendment, if the amendment fails, then it just reverts back to the primary motion.
Right.
But if the amendment passes, now that's what you're voting on.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification on that. I will make the motion, the amendment, to add a contingency for the, should we go with redevelopment authority and the county?
Yes.
Okay, with the redevelopment authority of the city of Green Bay.
Well, it'd be, it's the city and the county.
The city and the county?
City and the county.
Okay, city and the county, to execute a development agreement for parcel 11-188.
Okay.
Now you say, is there a second?
All right, yeah, I was working on it, because I got two people on. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'm second.
And Kelsey.
Emma has technical issues, so she couldn't.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so now we've got a second on that. On the amendment to the first motion.
I think we know procedure right now.
So, now we're gonna vote on all of it.
No.
Well,
Just the amendment, we're just doing the amendment first. Okay. Should we do individual vote or roll call?
Individual.
All right. I don't even know how I'm gonna vote on it.
Well, you can go put yourself last.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, Vice Chair Miller.
Nay.
Alder Hutchinson.
Nay.
Commissioner Daniels.
Nay.
Commissioner Rubinsky.
Yay.
Commissioner Lutzo.
Yay.
Commissioner Fullwilder.
Not online.
Oh, she's not online, okay. And Chair Hansen, I'm gonna go nay. Okay, so now we go back to the original motion. All right, so we'll go ahead with a voice vote on that. Chair Miller.
Yay.
Alder Hutchinson.
Yay.
Commissioner Daniels.
Yay.
Commissioner Vinsky.
Nay.
Commissioner Fullwilder is having technical difficulties. Commissioner Lutzo.
Nay.
And Chair Hansen, yay. 4-2. Yeah, all right. Okay, and then that will go forward then to City Council for April 21st.
Correct.
Okay, all right, then moving on to item number 5, which is a public hearing. Yeah, we're not done. Public hearing on a request to amend the Go Big Green Bay 2050 Comprehensive Plan for 1696 Janus Avenue from future multifamily residential land use to low-density residential land use, submitted by Brad Reimer of Verbiker on behalf of Landmark Real Estate and Development, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oops. Okay, so this item is kind of a twofold item. First, we're going to be looking at a comprehensive plan amendment for the parcel, with the second item being a rezoning. So here is a street view. This is 1696 Janus Avenue. So it's vacant currently. Here's an air photo of the property. It's heavily wooded, and then around it has a bunch of multifamily developments. The purpose of the request is that the property is currently zoned R3 multifamily residential. The property owner is looking to create single-family homes on the parcel. In the R3 district, single-family homes are permitted with a conditional use permit. We don't really see, staff doesn't really see it being appropriate to have 7 conditional use permits out there for what's almost a 2-acre parcel. We suggested that they come forward with a rezone application, which would then designate that parcel for the use and the density that it would be, which would be R1 low-density residential. The first step to that is that the current land use, future land use designation of it is also multifamily. So if we are to get to that rezone of low-density residential, the R1 district, we need to look at the future land use, which is multifamily. So that we also need to amend the comprehensive plan the future land use classification to match that of the low-density district. So this is just giving a background as far as how we got here, where we're trying to go. So the parcels currently has a future land use designation of multifamily residential. The property to the north is the Beaver Dam Creek Parkway. So this is Conservancy. And then to the north, further north, is Kennedy Elementary School and then the new Star Elementary School where that's being built. And then to the east, we've got other multifamily residential. To the south, we've got multifamily residential and then single family. And then to the west of it, or southwest, is more multifamily for land use. The current zoning matches a lot of that future land use. So the current zoning is R3, which makes sense since the future land use is multifamily. But you can see there is a parcel here to the north. This is owned by the city of Green Bay. This is part of that Parkway property, and I'll get into this a little later because of some floodplain and floodway issues, which kind of leads to this request for the single family. So the property does contain floodway. It's kind of hard to see in the map, but there's some dashed lines. And you cannot build in a floodway. That's where water travels. There is no development there. And then the county has development standards for environmentally sensitive areas, so then there's an additional 30-foot setback on here. So the proposal was that there's a lot of environmental situations that really make it challenging to be able to put multifamily housing on the parcel, along with any type of infrastructure that goes along with it. So the proposal is to have, and this is just a concept. I mean, when we're looking at this request, we do have to be mindful that what is being proposed is not always what would eventually happen on the property. So we have to be okay that, you know, it doesn't necessarily look like this. But this is the difference of where we're going. It's pretty, I mean, obviously multifamily and low density, their explanations are self-explanatory. So we're really looking at the large scale apartment complex, like family complexes, or senior nursing home facilities in the multifamily district. The low density is, it's our new code, you know, with our low density residential, we do have opportunities for 3 and 4 unit apartment buildings. Anything above 4 wouldn't be permitted in that district, but we would still be looking at potentially, you know, they could do townhomes, they could do duplexes. So we could see some larger density happen out there. So, just making sure I got everything. So, the thing to keep in mind is that whatever we kind of do with this particular, this action item, would then try to match that for the upcoming action item regarding the rezoning petition. So that is all I have for this point.
All right, sounds good. All right, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Oh, no,
Well, as applicant, thank you for adjusting the agenda to put me out for that. I didn't think I was going to make it in time for Wrightstown. So, kind of straightforward with the request. I know you said we don't know what's going to happen there. I do have a preliminary plat. As soon as something like this were to go through, we're prepared to come back with some seven single-family residences there. We have 7 existing laterals there. This parcel has never been developed. The apartments across the street were developed mid to late 70s. That's when they show up on the GIS map at least. So this parcel's been vacant, and it's actually been somewhat utilized by the people across the street in those apartments. There's grills and patio sets and randomness there. But like you stated, the rear part of this parcel is floodway, floodplain. There's a creek there, so the depth of this parcel doesn't really allow a typical multifamily development. So single-family, low-density residential is what we're proposing, and if there are any questions, I will be available. Thank you.
I'll speak on this item, and it really goes over to the next item as well. So this is in my district, and I am 100% behind this. I think it's great. I did reach out to Brad to get a little more information about it. And it is, like he said, you know, it's not that deep when you consider the flood plain issue, that kind of thing. And I did notice that there's patio equipment or furniture and things like that the apartments are using it for. And I've been getting complaints about that, to be honest. But I know that in my district, and as I'm sure this applies to the entire city, is we need more housing and the single families. And I notice when a house goes up for sale, it gets sold right away. So we desperately need this housing, so I'm very much in favor of approving this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
In the room.
Right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one else came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actual item, item number 6. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend the Go Big Green Bay 2050 Comprehensive Plan for 1696 Janice Avenue from future multifamily residential land use to low-density residential land use, submitted by Brad Reimer of Verbiker on behalf of Landmark Real Estate and Development, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the one comment, so our recommendation is approval of the request. And the reason for this is because we're still potentially going to see, you know, with the code amendment, or not code amendment, but the comprehensive plan amendment, that there is still potential for density. I mean, they're stating they're going to come in with a preliminary plat for the single-family homes, but it still encourages the density there. And also with the comprehensive plan, and Melinda Alder-Eck did talk about this, is the variety of housing types, the need for housing. One of the things that the comprehensive plan does is it really tries to encourage and promote housing diversity. And in this area, you could see the amount of multifamily there. By adding some single family, we do continue to add some diversification in our housing. And with the floodplain and floodway situation, we're supporting the request. We have noticed people within 200 feet, and we didn't get any comments or receive any questions even. Anyway, our recommendation is approval.
Thank you.
I have some boring floodway questions first. I see, so the 30-foot ESA setback, that's our code, or is that coming from the DNR or somewhere else?
That's through the county.
County. And then I'm also seeing on their shoreland zone. Is that something to be concerned about?
That I don't believe applies in the city.
It's the floodway that's the issue. The floodway goes into the property itself.
So what is the shoreline? If it's not relevant, sorry, it painted the entire
So-
area, so I was wondering if it's something we can worry about.
I guess with previous county work is the DNR The DNR designates land within so many feet of a navigable waterway, shoreline zoning. I don't know if it's 300, I think if it's a stream, it's probably
Yeah, it's following the contours.
three.
I think it's 300.
The key feature is the floodway, the non-stay of the floodway is what's coming to play.
But
You can't touch that.
I believe because it's in the city of Green Bay that the shoreline zoning doesn't really apply. It's
They're not,
only
we're not,
in-
I assume we're not putting them into a permit issue where they have to.
No, so what's happening, what will happen here is there'll be some division of property, and that's where the county comes into it too. You're dividing the property up, so there are ESAs that are involved as well. But it's a limited amount of area because the property wouldn't be subdivided. If it was kept as one large contiguous property, it would still be very challenging to put in multifamily, knowing you need to have parking stalls, and if we're talking about trying to maneuver around those lines, which it's not really changed much, but they probably did change a bit from when the revision happened back in 2023, and they may change a bit in the future.
And we do send this to the county for review too. So if there's a preliminary plat coming in and they have an issue or concern with it, they'll comment on it as well. But we've never really done any shoreline zoning in the city with
No.
any projects.
So not a concern for this.
We've done
Floodways, what we're-
environmentally sensitive areas, which is what this is, and like Baird Creek, those areas are protected through that portion of the environmentally sensitive areas, but we don't really do shoreline zoning.
What is the 30-foot offset? What is that?
Oh, okay, so this is the floodway line here, and then this is the the 30-foot floodway buffer. And there's this line over here, which is the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. But that doesn't really prohibit development, you just have to change the elevation.
So the other two, the 30-foot, you can't develop on it? Not even a parking lot?
No grading, nothing.
No, you can use it for recreational space, but you can't develop on it. And this is because the property is being subdivided, is what kicks that portion into play.
Do we
I have
do you have more questions? I was going to say, should we open the floor
No, I was gonna say.
if we want to have any?
As applicant, do you have to open the floor?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a
City
quick-
staff.
I have a quick question for the auditor, and I know with changing the, and I'm sorry, thank you for, because I put down Hinkle, whatever. But no, I thought, well, I didn't
Oh,
put the paper.
the Hinkle
So you know,
property.
with changing the zoning,
Yeah.
duplexes are allowed, so I'm assuming, I know they come up preliminary plat, but I'm assuming you're okay with duplexes.
Yeah, that would be fine,
Okay,
but,
that was
and,
it.
yeah, their plat doesn't show that, it shows single
I
family.
know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's allowed, it would be allowed with the new zoning.
It is allowed,
And
yes.
I know we've had that discussion before with
Because
other
somebody-
auditors.
I'm sorry,
No,
I don't mean to
that's
jump in, but somebody could buy the lot. I mean, they're putting the preliminary plat together, that doesn't mean that somebody can't buy the lot and put a duplex on it.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure that.
So, I mean, unless there's a builder that's building all of them, you know.
They're
but-
doing spec homes. So that, they are planning to do spec homes, so they would be building it. But yes, to your answer, to answer your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Am I correct, that the multifamily zoning would allow for like townhomes, attached townhomes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so does,
So-
so does R1.
So does R1,
Yeah, I
right.
think it just limits the number you can have. I think it limits it to 6 in a building in the R1.
I mean, you could do three all together, which be townhomes, so anything less than 3 would be multi-use, undesignated, I don't know what it's called.
So
We
this-
changed all the duplexes up or lower.
So I did read that correct. I'm just-
Single family attached.
Not to always be the naysayer on things, but, you know, throw things out.
We need you.
Right. Is this not the definition of spot zoning, where it's surrounded by R3?
I wouldn't think
Borderline?
Well, generally spot zoning is when you have like residential to commercial.
Okay.
Or where you don't have any of those associated
overlapping
uses, like
uses.
you're completely going to a different use classification. So I wouldn't consider it spot zoning, and you're also doing a rather large piece, and frankly, there's R1 next to it.
That is
That the
technically
city
our own.
owns.
Okay.
So, yeah, I wouldn't consider it spot zoning, just because it's all within that same use classification of residential.
Okay.
Townhomes would be beautiful right there.
I'm just thinking of, we need how many more housing units? I forget the number from.
500, 700 a year.
Right, right. And this just, it's the minimum amount that we could get out of this amount of space here. And I think you could look at it a little bit more creatively, come back with some townhomes and maybe get 14 units there.
I
Who's
tend
to
to
say?
I do tend to agree.
Yeah, we're not a developer either. I agree with townhomes because I live on them. But you could get more townhomes in this space.
I feel like if I was a developer, I would have already looked at townhomes. If I could get the more money out of my land, I would have already looked at that, but.
I don't know, because you can get more, than 7 townhomes in this space. And townhomes
But it
go
also
up
might
as
be
far as
twice
go back.
Could be twice the
I
cost.
put my townhome on the market, it's gonna get sold.
I don't know if that's what it's saying, but townhomes, the garages all have to be on the rear.
That's part of it.
I don't know if that makes a difference.
I think it would.
It does in this situation.
It would not. I'm not a developer, but it would not. Because the garage doesn't have to stick out, it'd be contained within it would be contained within the back of the townhome. It doesn't have to stick out.
Could be in the front, build above it. I don't
It
know.
could be in the front, too.
There's options. Anyway.
They're saying it isn't.
He just told us the garage has to be in the back.
Actually, the back.
He just said.
And part of the issue, so
He just said that.
as part of our R1 development standards, has to be in the back, as far as a garage. So you can,
Multifamily though?
Not a multi.
Like if we didn't rezone
Multifamily won't
it,
fit
that's
in
fine.
this.
correct, it doesn't.
How would they do
With
that?
this site-
I can say.
You wouldn't be able to.
The EASA gets to be up to 63 feet from the right of way line. And so that means putting in front yard setback, home, rear yard drive, garage, or garage attached and drive. It would be difficult for townhomes on this to occur in all parts of this lot. So because of the environmental factors on this property, while yes, somebody could come forth with a higher density use, it would be fairly impractical for somebody, and I think that might be why the site has stayed vacant while the rest of the neighborhood has been developed for the past 50 years.
So single-family homes would be less space than townhomes?
It would be less depth that would be necessary for
They
development.
don't need to account for that driveway run behind.
But in, again, multifamily, you could have,
In multifamily, you could have this, yes.
you could
correct,
have
yes, yes,
the garage out the front.
But like Chair Hanson said, I'm pretty sure they consider that as something. I would hope.
To be fair, it's a
Single
big
family
assumption on my
home
part,
builder.
but personally, that's what I would say.
If there's someone who just
Yeah,
builds
that's what
back
I
on.
would have done too.
But
Yeah, okay.
again, I just don't, I think we could be more creative, that's all.
If we had, when every developer wants to do it. Do we have anything?
I think it comes down to, are we concerned with getting these lots developed? Or are we concerned in highest and best use?
What's our stance, yeah.
On that?
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to put a parking lot there.
Well,
That is true.
I would like to see some more density as well, but I have a hard, I can understand why it's difficult.
Yeah, especially with the
It's a
floodplain in the back.
It's a constrained area. I mean, you're talking about 65 feet to the setback, or ESA setback, but that's not counting front setbacks or anything else. Like, you're working with a pretty small box.
And this is already more dense than it's been
Do you mind if
forever.
Just add, so if you're, I live in that neighborhood, there's a lot of high-density residential. There's, right across the street, there's, I don't know how many buildings, 15 buildings, apartment buildings, and then right down the street from there, there's a couple more apartment buildings. So it's not as if there aren't a lot of apartment buildings in that area. As you mentioned, it would be more variety of homes. So, just keep that in mind. I know you're kind of thinking of other ways they can do it, but really what's on the table is changing the zoning to R1 and then letting the developer make the decision from there on what they're planning to do. So just please keep that in mind.
I'm inclined to believe your point here that if it were possible and made sense from my perspective, it would have been done by now. I haven't driven by these lots personally, but I can imagine it's wooded, it's probably pretty nice. If they could fit something more dense, I think they would have done it. So, is that an assumption? Sure, but I'm inclined to believe it.
It is an interesting location, and to put anything there is going to be kind of a chore. So I think if we have someone willing to put it on single-family homes, I think it's worth a try, I guess.
What about lot number 6? That's
One
more
other
like
thing is,
backyard.
in the R3 district, single-family homes are allowed with a conditional use permit. So if a conditional use permit comes here for review, how do you look at it? What conditions do you deny it? Do you put conditions on it? So that's kind of the balance that we were playing as well on our end, on staff's end.
Because we could have 7
There would be
conditional
7.
use permits down the line
Yeah.
instead of rezoning it,
Yeah.
basically. Or changing the comp plan and then rezoning.
Yeah, because then we can't prevent somebody from applying for a conditional use permit or a rezone or a comprehensive plan amendment. So what made the most sense, and how are we gonna look at a CUP request if that were to come in? I don't know what we would say to deny a CUP, because generally you're approving them with conditions to get them to be more appropriate. So, I mean, that's where we were coming from as staff.
I think it's kind of fair too to have that variety of housing too. Now, what's in that lower corner to the south, and is
This-
this just a single family house too?
This is an 8-unit.
Oh, okay.
And then I think the plan with this parcel here, it's, they just did a land division here, so, of doing some duplexes there.
Okay.
That was one that burned down. It
I was
was
gonna
a
say,
parking
it looks like there was a building there.
lot. It was. They still have the parking lot.
All right. So 7 single family. I think those houses would be kind of cool for families with young children. I would want to go play in the creek in the backyard personally.
Oh, no thanks.
They probably would be highly desirable.
They would be, right. Because they back up to Conservancy.
It's not that many in Green Bay.
No. But
Oh, I did it wrong for the development.
I don't think I'm gonna get the support that I'm looking for, so if someone can make a motion.
What you said about this, the commissioner's permits kind of settles it for me, like, it's just adding an administrative burden to what you guys would probably have to go through in the end anyway, so I will move to approve as recommended.
I will second.
All right, any further discussion? We've got a motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right then. And that will move forward then to City Council for the 21st. Moving on to item number 7, which is a public hearing. Public hearing on a request to rezone property located at 1696 Janice Avenue from varied density residential to low density residential, submitted by Brad Reimer of Verbiker on behalf of Landmark Real Estate and Development, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I won't take up too much more time here. So now we're to the point of going from the comprehensive plan amendment to the actual rezoning request. So the rezone would be to go from R3 multifamily residential to R1 low-density residential. Again, here's what the zoning map currently looks like. You're familiar with the potential layout of the lots. Again, dealing with floodplain, floodway setbacks, and floodway. We want to, of course, keep in mind of the different uses that are allowed in those zoning districts. So just in your packet, there was kind of a chart of the uses that's permitted. So just to give an idea, again, in the R1 district, or excuse me, in the R3 district, single-family homes detached are permitted with a conditional use permit. So there is the possibility of coming forward with conditional use permits for the 7 parcels, but again, we didn't feel that it made sense because in essence, the land use would be changing. So might as well get the zoning to reflect what's actually happening out there. So, but anyway, I think that's all I need to say.
All right, sounds good. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 8. Consideration with possible action on a request to rezone property located at 1696 Janus Avenue from very density residential to low density residential, submitted by Brad Reimer of Verbiker on behalf of Landmark Real Estate and Development, Inc., property owner.
Thank you. So our recommendation is approval of request for the environmental sensitivity of the area, the diversity of housing promoted throughout the comprehensive plan, and that you still can, in the zoning district, have density. So anyway, that's our recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Rinsky, a second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, then City Council for the 21st of April. Moving on to informational, Director's Report.
Hey everybody, we got your report. Sorry, I told keeping him like, Commissioner.
Sorry, we just.
An hour tops.
We did our research before.
We're like, think about this.
Don't leave yet. I have
Don't
a
leave.
question that I want council members to hear on the record,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, I just want to say that, so Light Park is starting, One Astor is a big hole now, which is great.
Yeah, it's a hole.
Which is great. Nova still, I think they're leasing up now.
They are.
You can go through there, so lots of stuff happening. Any questions for me?
Okay.
Any questions for alders?
Question for staff, that I want the alders to hear on record here. It's real quick, I think. Okay. On-street parking. I know that isn't what we do here, but, okay. There are marked spots all over the city that say no parking very specifically, like for instance in front of DigiCopy on Walnut. And yet consistently, there are Amazon, FedEx, all different types of mail trucks that are always parking on the street, on the sides of the street that say no parking. Where does that go? What kind of, who do we talk to about getting that fixed? Who enforces this? Because it is causing backups and stuff all the time. I'm thinking it's like traffic commission.
It would be a loading zone, it sounds like.
Right, but none of them are marked as loading zones. A lot of them are on my street on North Maple, where they just pull up in front of a house, and our road's already narrow. And they're parking on the side that says no parking, but they put their flashers on, so they think it's okay to park there or something. I don't know.
That's it.
That's it. I just want that to be on the record that.
That would be a parking utility.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Technically.
Parking utility.
Okay. I just wanted to hear that, that's all.
Astor.
Okay. So if anyone actually watches this later on,
Now I'm gonna be paying attention.
Okay. Anyway, that's all.
All right.
Motion.
I have two questions, sorry.
Okay.
222 Cherry, is that coming up to RDA soon?
The 222 Cherry is tied to the Three Corners site. It's Peter Nugent project, so he owns the old, like the Boss's building downtown. He also owns the vacant site at Three Corners, the corner of Baird and Main, where Mecca Music used to be, tore that building down. It's not a, it's a horrible site, right?
Yeah.
It's gotta be remediated, there's underground parking. Those two projects are kind of tied together in that he's gotta figure out what to do with that site in order to do the development downtown. We're working with him right now, we're getting estimates on the cost to kind of remediate that site. We think that site could potentially be used as kind of a food truck site. Because you can build on the furthest east
What are we
section.
talking about, the Main and Baird, is that what
Yeah.
you're?
Three
Where it used to be
Corners,
the rest of the, what's that, there was a.
Bill's Pancake Place?
Bill's Pancake, thank you, I'm like the big pancakes, and they were
It used to be
delightful.
Red Rocket, I think, or something, but yeah. So you can build on that end of the site, so it would be nice to have a development where you could like put a building there and then have some food truck spaces. Because there is a big sewer line that runs underneath that.
So if you put a
property.
toilet, then you could have, what is it called, a food court convention, conglomerate?
Yeah,
But they would
that's
be,
right.
you have to have a pad, and they have to be there all the time.
Is it rally?
A rally, a rally, that was it.
No, this wouldn't be a rally, it would be
Oh.
actually a
Court.
A court.
Court, okay,
We have a-
thank you.
we're closed for court, so yes, so we're working on that now, we're trying to figure out how to handle that site.
That's a weird site, I had a friend that had an apartment there.
Holding up 222 though?
Right, because the cost to
owns it.
remediate that site on Three Corners could be over $1 million.
So he's trying to extract some leverage here
He's
from
trying to-
someone?
Right, I mean, right.
Okay.
he's
Okay.
My other question should be a little bit nicer. We haven't been very hospitable at times in this, so I wanted to give Kiki an opportunity to, I guess, introduce yourself to us and say hi, if you want.
Oh, great, on the record.
Yeah, right, like, on the spot, on the record.
I'm on day 4 here, so we're just, I'm learning a lot about everything. But thank you for having me. Kiki Sanchez, I'm a Green Bay native, so born and raised here, and then as soon as I was 18, I left. But don't worry, I came back, okay?
Right.
20-some years, I was in Milwaukee, Chicago, came back. I've been back in Green Bay for about 13 years now. So it's really an incredible opportunity to be in this role in the city, in my hometown, and just being a part of everything that's going on, all the great things that are happening in the city. So we look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks for doing it.
We're very happy to have her.
Oh, wait, we have more of it in the agenda, I just put it away, I'm like, we're not done in the middle of the meeting. All right, director's report. Date of the next meeting is April 13th, 2026.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn, all those in favor? Aye. All right, good night, guys.
Am I free to go again?
Also, all there is to hear. I was hoping Brian would stay.
Brian was like, I'm out.
No.
He had to go to-
Well, he's done, he doesn't have another council meeting.